Hey, everybody, welcome to another episode of the Snap Decisions podcast. I am your host with the most, your Snap DJ, and I've got an awesome guest with me today. It is DOCTY. DOCTY, how are you today? And welcome to the show. Really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you for having me. I am doing great as always, and I'm excited for some interesting discussions here.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. First, before we get started, tell all the listeners where you are, what you do, and where you do it. I know you are a content creator, obviously, for Snap. I've seen your videos. You do tremendous videos for the card previews, which I dearly missed when Drew Berry kind of left. But you do an awesome job with that, and now I've been watching yours. So yeah, so tell us what you do, and again, like I said, where you do it on, when do you create, and also a little bit about that, how you kind of started that whole thing with that Drew Berry used to do.
Yeah, so my primary platform is YouTube. Like where you said you've been watching me a bit,
Yep.
and so I'm mainly just on YouTube and Twitter. I do live stream sometimes, but when I do that, it's on YouTube as well. I'll just live stream like once or twice a week, and YouTube and Twitter, I'm under DOCTY_snap, and it's just the same on both platforms. I upload YouTube. Usually I'll do my new card preview videos, which has become like my biggest series, like you
Yeah.
alluded to, every Saturday. Sometimes there's two new cards coming out if it starts season, so that'll be my Saturday and Sunday vid. So usually I'm doing weekend vids. Sometimes I'll throw in like a third one during the week, but just 2 to 3 times a week. I don't go crazy with uploads, so it's about 2 videos, sometimes three, and 1 or 2 live streams a week on average. But yeah, YouTube definitely my primary platform for content.
Nice. Very cool. Very cool. How so? I know that obviously the thing with Drew Berry bothered people. I know it did. A lot of people loved him. He was a great dude. Really seemed like a nice guy. I've never met him, but seemed like a really nice guy. Loved his streams, and I watched those videos weekly. So what just as far as just looking at it, what made you want to start to kind of pick up for him after he did that? And I know he endorsed you. I did hear that on his last video that he did. So yeah. So what made you want to go kind of go that route?
Yes, and yeah, it was very cool of him to on his kind of, goodbye Snap video
Yeah.
where he's just telling his followers, "Hey, I'm not covering Snap anymore. If you're only interested in Snap, then, this channel doesn't have much value to you anymore, but here are some other creators that do similar things." So it was very cool of him. A very nice way of him to kind of he was adding so much value to the community, and he was making sure his viewers knew where to find that value or similar value other places, other channels. So it was really great of him. He obviously didn't have to do that at all. Um, and so that was nice. And so when I first started my channel, which was a little over a year ago, I think I started about March of 2023, March or April. So a bit over 1 year ago. And I was doing mainly deck videos, which is like most Snap YouTubers, right? They're
Yeah.
making decks, they're showing gameplay. There's a ton of creators doing that, but that's what most people are going to Snap YouTube for. So there's so many views to go around. So even though it kind of seems saturated, it's really not too bad. And so I was doing that for a while, but I've always focused a lot on like editing and kind of, I guess, more like production side of the video. So they'd take me a really long time. Like I would not spend that much time playing Snap. I'd spend much more time making, editing the video where I'm playing a deck, and have gameplay in it than I actually spent on the gameplay. And so it was one kind of task that, be creative in the decks I would make. So that's kind of something I would always be thinking about. And then just the time with the videos, it really started building up. So I was always trying some different things. Okay, what else can I put out besides just a deck guide video? What other kind of videos can I do? And I tried a bunch of things. I've tried so many different things. My channel really at first was like pretty diverse in the types of videos I made. And I think maybe after a few months, so maybe it was around this time last year, I started every now and then I'd put out a video about the new upcoming cards. And I'd just say buy or bust, like for the month of, August or September or whatever. And those videos would always do pretty well. They would just get like decent views, like me covering the new cards. And I didn't put too much into it. It still wasn't my focus. And then maybe around September, October, maybe it's even later. It might have even been like December when Sebastian Shaw came out.
Okay.
I really started not just doing this buy or bust, previewing the whole season, but then I started doing it for each individual card as well. And so this is kind of like what Drewberry was doing. Drewberry was doing his Snapper Pass series.
Right.
He would cover individual cards. He would cover different videos on data mines, and he would cover custom cards, which is another one of his big things. And so once I started doing the individual cards, just kind of like weekly with every card release, that's when me and Drewberry started having some more overlap, right? Because I'd kind of
Yep.
switched what I was doing because I used to be more like some other channels. I guess when I was doing my deck guides, I mean, you're always gonna have overlap with someone.
Sure.
Yeah, I switched to that, and then the views were okay, and I really found that the videos it felt better to make. It didn't feel like I was putting so many hours into this because I now didn't have to do the gameplay portion. I could just actually make the video, give my thoughts on the cards, talk more, different kind of editing steps. And so I found it just easier to make. It wasn't so, I guess, a bit stressful trying to think of like a video idea or something. And I didn't want to just like make a video to make a video, and have it be something I don't enjoy. And so I started doing those and they started getting decent views. So I'm like, okay, I'll keep doing these. And then over time, they grew to be my most successful series. So I did my last deck guide video in like February. I haven't put out a deck guide video since February. It's like a Grandmaster Darkhawk deck right after Grand.
Wow. Okay. Yeah.
And I still do some other types of videos every now and then, just touching on like different topics. Sometimes I just talk about like best or worst cards in the game, use some stats from like Snap.fan or something. But the Buy or Bust series started becoming my most popular vids, and I thoroughly enjoy making them since like January, February. So I just kept doing it. And so, kind of the schedule I have now, I've had probably since February, March. But then obviously Drewberry stopping his
Yeah.
content about a month ago. Now maybe it is, some April or May is when, then my channel kind of blew up some more. Like they were my best performing videos, but once he stopped making content, even before he put out his videos, his exit video, once he just stopped covering the new cards, like my videos of new cards just started blowing up just
That's
because
awesome.
that overlap and people were like, oh, Drew Ray didn't upload a video. Who else uploads video? Let me type in,
Yeah.
Sage Marvel Snap preview. Who's talking about Sage or Nocturne, right? And so yeah, it just kind of happened where I had overlap with Drewberry, and I don't do the custom cards or anything. I really just had overlap on our card prediction videos because not that many creators talk about cards before they come out. They more do like, oh, this card just came out. Here's what I'm playing with. Like this deck
Yeah.
is OP or something. And so just because of that overlap, when Drewberry decided to stop, because he was a pretty big name in the community, he had like 20,000 subscribers. He was getting like 20,000 views a video.
Yeah. Man.
It just kind of happened. So it kind of, at first, it was like an unofficial passing of the torch, if you will. Like my views went up once he stopped making videos on Snap. And then he obviously made the exit video where he did give me a shout out. He gave a shout out to Guest Gaming.
Yep.
A few other people, Res Snapper, I think, was one. And so that's when he kind of, I guess, officially passed the torch to some smaller creators, which was really nice of him. But yeah, we really just had some overlap because that's where I found myself and my content after 6 to 9 months of making content, finding what works best for me.
I really think it's great. I kind of was drawn to his when I was playing kind of early on because especially I think what you guys do is really good for almost anyone to watch simply because and not that the stuff like the people who show off the decks and things like that, that's all cool, but I think for people who are really kind of struggling, right, to get all the cards, the people who are really, it comes off as a really good service for people. Like, for instance, we're going to get to her, a little bit in this Makkari, obviously, but, to tell, people who are on a limited budget, right, and this game can get super expensive, that, hey, this is kind of a skip week, unless you really need like the cards that are in the caches. It's pretty much a skip week. So, and it lets them kind of save up a little bit and be like, all right, this card is not going to be great. It's not going to be a meta card. I don't really need it. So I always was fascinated by that. I like that. I think it's a really, really good idea. And especially with the, the amount of money this game could cost, and the cost kind of going up a little bit. I think it's a really cool service. And, I, for one, I'm glad you're doing it. So yeah, I could totally see that they're your most popular videos, because I really think it is something that people enjoy watching.
Yeah, I think really this is what most Snap YouTubers or content creators, and something that you kind of should be doing. I mean, if you do this, you will get views, but you just should be doing it in general, even if you're not getting views. Kind of
Yeah,
say you just want to add value to the community, right? Like when I started making videos, even when I was doing deck guides, I was doing them to add value to the community. I was creating my own decks, just fun deck hooks that people weren't playing. Hey, look at this deck I made. Look how it works. I'd show my wins, my losses. This is how you play it. I do like a turn-by-turn breakdown. Like I really went in depth into showing how to play the decks, and that's why the videos took me so long.
yeah,
But it was to add value. So if people watched it, they got something from the video. And then once I realized I was also able to add value through card predictions, even if there are some other people that cover a similar thing. I mean, if we could easily be covering the same card, right? Me and Drew
sure,
Barry, we're both talking about the same card, but we're gonna have different opinions. He may
absolutely.
say, "I think this card's good. You should get it." I may say the opposite, or vice
Yeah,
versa. You know what I mean? And so it's just a way that even if someone or there are other channels covering the same things, like it's all, we're predicting. It's all
yeah,
guesswork,
yeah,
and
absolutely.
so you just hear different thoughts to help viewers form and firm up their own opinions. And so it just adds a lot of value to the community. So that's why it's been kind of easy for me to keep it going, and why I enjoy making the videos, and yeah, why they get good views. It, like you said, it's just helpful.
Yeah,
And you mentioned with the resources, we don't know until the cards actually come out, but if you can get a guess for yourself, if you're a player, and say, look, here's the month coming up. These cards are on my radar. This first card of the first week or two, they look all right. They look fine. Maybe I'll play them. But man, the cards on week 3, I really think I want. Like, I think I'm going to skip week 1 and 2 because I need to save up my keys, because it takes time,
oh
right?
yeah,
It's not just uh, if you don't spend money on the game, but it takes time to build up those resources. So you have to kind of plan out in advance, which is really where the value of that kind of content comes in.
yeah, yeah, absolutely. So I have to ask you, did you ever, like, of all these videos that you've done, what would you say, like, your biggest hit, as far as like, hey, I got this one spot on, and also maybe like your biggest miss on the card?
Yeah, no, I know them off the top of my head. I know for sure. I mean, look, I've been now, I think, doing individual card guesses since like November, December. So I've had hits and I've had misses, right?
Yeah, sure,
And it's gonna happen. It's gonna keep happening. I feel like
no
I'm
doubt.
pretty good. Glazer will tell people that me and Safety Blade are the best at guessing, because Glazer, I don't know if you're aware, before every season starts, he asks a bunch of content creators their predictions
Yeah,
for the
yeah,
season. And
I've
so,
actually sent them in for him. Yeah,
okay, where he
yeah,
asks you to rank
hmm,
them, right?
yep,
And so then he gets the averages and he posts them on Marvel Snap Zone, and you can see the average points, and per card across all the people he asks. And it's basically always off. It's always wrong, right? It's so hard to do. It's
oh,
so
it
hard
is.
to predict
Yeah,
cards,
sure.
especially if, they make patches or OTAs, the meta changes a bit before the card comes out. I mean, it's so difficult.
Yep.
And then, but Glazer always say that me and Safety Blade are like the most accurate out of everybody. Now, I
Well,
don't
there
think
you
it's
go.
tough competition,
Yeah,
because it's off, and I'm still plenty wrong. But I try to think about it, and every time I'm wrong, especially when I'm really wrong, that's when I learn a lot about why I was wrong. And so that's how I actually like get better. So I'll start with my biggest miss,
yeah,
because it
okay,
leads into my biggest correct hit.
okay.
My biggest miss was Grandmaster, and I think a lot of
Mhm.
people, that was a big
You're
miss.
not alone there. That was so hyped up. Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah, so he was hyped up. A lot of people. Helped convince Glazer he was going to be good. Originally, Glazer was very doubtful about Grandmaster, and I think it was there was I think it was someone on Twitter, Quinn XC. I'm trying to remember the name. Quinn Equinox. There we go. I
Okay.
think they convinced Glazer that Grandmaster's pretty good, and I was telling Glazer all these things, and Glazer's like, I think Grandmaster's going to be pretty good now. And so we let him astray. But I do the star rating on my cards, and
Yep.
at the end of my video, I give a star rating for a card's fun factor. It's
Yep.
important. Like some cards are good, but they're boring, so you may not play them much, which maybe
Right.
they're not worth the tokens. I do fun. Then I do flexibility. How many decks you can fit the card into? If it's
Yep.
really good but really niche, you may actually never play it if you don't like that deck. And then I do star ratings for being competitive, right? How good it's going to be in the meta for a competitive sense. And so I do like out of 4 stars for those 3 factors. And I had been pretty conservative up to that point, especially with the competitive. Grandmaster, I think might have been the first card that I gave like a 4-star competitive
Oh, man.
prediction. So I gave him 4 stars in fun. I gave him 4 stars in flexibility because I thought he was going to work on every deck. You just put him in any deck. There's so many on reveals out there. And I gave him 4 stars in competitive, just across the board, 4, 4, 4. I was so all out on him, and I was obviously so wrong. I mean, it was like the opposite, right? He wasn't nearly as flexible. He's fairly niche. He's pretty fun still. That one wasn't terrible, but then the
Yeah.
competitive side, he wasn't there either. So that was my biggest miss by a landslide. I was so wrong at Grandmaster.
You're not alone. There were, in fact, I think most of the people that I've watched all missed on that. They all like really thought that was going to be. And I mean, look, you were right probably to think that way. There's so many unrevealed cards in the game that you would think somebody's going to put now. In fact, you're seeing him probably more with like cards like White Widow, where you're getting that down twice. But yeah, I think you were right. To think that way, yeah, because it did seem like it's going to be something huge. It just didn't end up working out that way. And cards, this is why, like what you guys do too, a lot of it can be, your thoughts on a card, but then you also have to kind of think of the meta and the way the meta is as to whether or not a card's going to work at that point in time also. So yeah, I could see that. And like I said, you weren't alone. I know there were a lot of people who really missed on that card.
Yeah, I think on Glazer's ratings where he posts the average of the month, I think Grandmaster was #1 prediction amongst the content creators and people in the community he asked. So yeah, I was very wrong. I just thought I'm like, hey, like I love Mystique. I play a ton of Mystique.
Yep.
Mystique copies an ongoing. She's a 3/0. Well, Grandmaster's cheaper, and he's got more targets. He's got to be better, right? And so I've like everything in my head just told me he was going to be the best thing since sliced bread, and my prediction was toast. So
Toast. It was sliced bread, just not that kind. Yeah.
Yeah. And so I was very wrong there, but I learned something. And part of why I thought I was going to be right on Grandmaster is I didn't think I wasn't really evaluating cards like individually much when Loki came out, but I didn't think Loki was going to be very strong. And I didn't realize like he is so good because he's also doing multiple things. He's giving you the discount. He's giving you new cards. At the time, it powered up collector. You're not getting random cards or good cards because they come from your opponent's hand. Same thing with Legion. Legion came out. People thought it'd be bad. He was really strong at the time.
Yep.
He did multiple things. You can copy your own locations, get rid of your opponents, copy Limbo, get rid of Limbo, do it from outside. Right? And so I'm like, Grandmaster can do so many things. Like he can copy any on reveal, right? Like that's like so that was my big thing at the time. I'm like, cards that can do multiple things are good if they can come with a decent stat line. And Grandmaster's really cheap. But what I learned was his floor was so bad.
Yep.
Okay. Even if he has a high ceiling, I did overrate his ceiling, but even if I didn't, even if his ceiling actually was a bit better, like his floor is so bad. If you can't get him to work, your middle location gets full, or you can't move a card there for whatever reason, or you have multiple unrevealed cards, it's not going to have space. Like he's a 2/0. He literally contributes nothing. He's now a 2/2, but he had one of the lowest floors in the game.
Yeah,
0 power. That it doesn't get much worse than that.
Right.
And so that's really what I learned. And that's now in my videos, my card predictions. I have a specific slide called floor and ceiling, where I talk about a card at its reasonable worst and reasonable best. The outcome you'll see, not like 1 in 1,000 games, not the crazy, what if scenarios, but maybe like the 1 in 10 or 1 in 20, this is like the height of the card. And so my best prediction, knowing what I learned from Grandmaster, was Supergiant. Supergiant, I don't know if she was the #1 or #2 predicted card for her season, but people were pretty high on her. People were high on her.
Yeah. Yeah. I think she was. I'm trying to think of that season now because obviously that was the Children of Thanos season. So Corvus, I want to say with
It had
Corvus,
Obsidian and Corvus
yeah,
and Black Swan.
Proxima, right?
Oh,
Black
and
Swan,
Proxima.
Proxima. Yeah. And so of all of those, Supergiant and Corvus, I would think are the best too. Proxima is great in discard, but that's about it. And which one am I missing? Oh, and Black Swan, no one plays. Yeah.
Obsidian was
Oh, and
good when he
Cull.
came out
Yeah,
because Thanos.
that's right. Cole was good too. But yeah, well, that's cool that you hit on Supergiant because that one, to be honest, when that came out too, I looked at that and I'm like, well, first of all, it's funny. I'll designate cards for myself as big brain
Uh-huh.
cards, and I'll look at something and be like, that just seems confusing, and I'm not going to touch that. So it's like when I saw her, I'm like, yeah, this is a big brain card. I'm not messing around with this. But yeah, I mean, look, it's become a card that more people I think are figuring out and figuring out how good it is.
Yeah.
The fact that you can't, they can't play that turn. Like, man, that wipes out like a destroy deck. If they're playing destroy, they're like done for. Like it just, yeah,
Yeah, I
it's a good
think
call.
now she's gaining more synergy a bit. Like over time, she's gonna get better. But there are a lot of people because Alioth was really good when she originally came out. Like Alioth was
Oh
still pretty
yeah,
strong, and
yeah,
so a lot of people thought, "Oh, Supergiant's gonna come out and just be super good. Like
yeah,
everyone's gonna play Supergiant. It's gonna be really good." A lot of people had it as their number one card of the season, and so I gave her a really low rating or a really low prediction, and I said, kind of like Grandmaster, like her floor's not very good. You're you're playing a 4-5, and Zabu was around at this time too. Remember, we still
yes.
had Zabu. So
Yeah.
if anything, she didn't love Zabu because you often wanted to stop the turn 5 and not get her out early, but it still helps. Um, but people thought she was just going to be nuts, and I was very doubtful. Glazer was really high on her, and I was telling Glazer, I'm like, I don't know, I'm suspicious. I had her as probably my worst or second worst of the month, but um, the prediction I pretty much nailed that she just wasn't going to be too good, at least not
Right.
to start with, because her floor is bad. She's a 4-5, and she's doing the same thing for you and your opponent. Like she comes down turn 4. You and your opponent both know that next turn your cards don't reveal.
Yep.
And unless you can take advantage of that, which means you need to rely on another card, right? You need to rely on this Alioth or, do whatever shenanigans. Then you
Yep.
didn't do anything. You just played a 4-5. And so that was really my biggest thing with her. I'm like, wait, Grandmaster, if he doesn't have another card to help him out, like he kind of sucks. If Supergiant doesn't get help from another card, she kind of sucks. Then when War Machine come out, I'm like, hey, if War Machine, you can't take advantage of him with another card, like he kind of sucks too, and people really hyped on him. So
Oh
I
yeah, they
definitely
were.
learned a lot from Grandmaster, and that helped me. I'd say one of my biggest hits was saying Supergiant was going to kind of flop, and now I think maybe she could be a bit becoming better. And Black Swan maybe was still the worst card of that month.
I think
Um,
so. Yeah.
but yeah, cards that rely on other cards, I realize their floor is just really low, and that's really bad because you're going to see the lows and highs of a card. So
Yeah. It's kind of crazy, right? Like some of these, you can try like doing what you do. You can try to look at a card before it's ever played and think to yourself, yeah, this is going to be awesome. Like this just the wording in the card is going to be really, really good, and then something comes out. Like, I mean, you want to go for an example, like recently is Cersei, right? Like when I looked at Cersei, I'm like, yeah, it seems okay, but there's a lot of RNG involved in that. She can really screw you depending on what you get. And in fact, I think the first game I played with her, I used her in a situation. She brought out a hazmat, and I'm like, oh,
yeah,
it was like, so those kind of cards like that are RNG. Now, what I want to ask is because I know a lot of people, Drew Berry also, and always kind of mention, do you as someone who does these lists, like if you're a player who is, they're going week by week, right? They're not, again, like I mentioned earlier, not really going to be able to maybe get all the cards. Is it a recommendation of yours? I know, like Drew Berry used to say, always wait for a little bit. Maybe wait till the end of the week, wait till the weekend or whatever, and kind of see like where it's going, right? And to give people enough time to mess around with it. You've got all the content creators doing their thing the day of release, all of them doing their videos. Is that something you'd recommend to like people who are like that maybe not able to get every card every month?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, that's just good, like, spending. I mean, even
Yeah.
outside of Snap, right? Like, if you think you want to buy something but it's brand new, like, wait a little bit, see how it goes, make sure you
Yep.
still want it. And so I usually, even when we'll talk about Makkari a bit at the end of my Makkari video, I said, hey, I don't think she's gonna be good. You're probably gonna want to skip her. Wait a couple days, see if I'm right or wrong. And
Yep.
same thing when I say, hey, this card's pretty good. I think you should buy it. I think it's worth chasing after. Wait a couple days in case I'm wrong. It's always good to wait and see. Of course, there are some cards who are going to lay low for a while.
Yeah.
Cannonball comes to mind.
Yeah. Oh
He
yeah.
didn't see
Right.
played his first week. I mean,
Nope.
it took him a long time. It took him, and granted, some other cards change, right? Zabu gets nerfed. That hurts Shang-Chi. That kind of helps Cannonball. Alioth gets nerfed. That helps Cannonball more. Now Ravana's in the meta instead of
Yeah.
Zabu. So now we got Professor X. That helps. So things do change. Cards get buffed. Cards get nerfed. But it is good to wait a couple days, especially on cards that you think are just going to be amazing. You think they're going to be busted. A lot of times they're not. And so, yeah, wait a couple days if you're not trying to get every card, or if you don't have interest in the spotlight cash outside of that new card. Wait a couple days and see if it's actually worth chasing after that specific new card or not.
Yeah, yeah, it's good advice, especially when I said when we started the show, tokens and caches are just so hard to come by, and so you really have to be careful. So yeah, it's great. I love to hear that you're doing that, and I really think it provides a service to a lot of people that are playing the game. So that's awesome, and I'm sure I'll keep watching for sure
I
every single
appreciate that.
week. So.
Yeah.
All right, I'm going to ask you. So, how did you come to play Marvel Snap? And did you start in the beta, or did you start a little bit later? I started in the Miles season when Miles Morales came out, so I think that was maybe like the second month or a little after beta, might have
Uh-huh.
been. I don't remember exactly, but yeah, when did you? And what brought you to Snap? Like me. I was a big Magic player, so I played Magic in the '90s when they had all those ridiculously broken cards that came out. Like in that, we were playing it unlimited. So we were right after there was Alpha, of course, which weren't ever played, Beta, which the Black Borders, and then Unlimited. So we came in around Unlimited. A friend of mine who owned the comic book store got us playing Magic, and we used to go to tournaments and stuff. And we had a ball. I had a lot of fun playing it. Wish to God I kept my cards because, man,
Yeah,
are
they're worth
those
a lot of money.
expensive? Holy cow. I had a Beta Black Lotus, which is literally listed on eBay for like $250,000. I'm like, oh my God.
That would have been crazy.
But alas, we never do things like that. But yeah, what brought you to? And also, I mean, for me, it's just my love of the genre. I've grown up reading comics since I was about 5 or so. I love Marvel. Most Marvel games that have come out along the lines, I played at one point or another. So what brought you to Snap, and when did you start playing?
Yeah, so it's definitely the card game aspect of it. I'm not a comic reader. I didn't really
Okay.
grow up on comics. They're big on like DC or Marvel. Obviously, I was familiar with it. I have some video games. I played like Marvel Ultimate Alliance
Oh,
back,
I love that game.
and yeah, that was good on
So good.
Xbox. I'd play it.
Yep.
And then I do watch some of the Marvel movies. I think going forward, I'll probably be watching most of them. But yeah, it really wasn't that aspect of it. So that's been actually really exciting to learn about more Marvel characters and comic artists. It's cool that all the artist names are listed
Yeah,
because now I
man.
know a ton of them. Um, but growing up, I never played Magic. I was big into Yu-Gi-Oh growing up because I would watch the
Yu-Gi-Oh, man. Yep.
show
Makes
and I had
sense.
a bunch of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. I'd always play with my friends, and so I was always big on that. And then, of course, as a kid, I played a bunch of video games. Xbox 360, PSP,
Yep.
Nintendo DS. Like I was just, the typical like boy playing a bunch of video
Yep.
games. And me and my brother would play. And then when I got a bit older, I don't even know how I found out about Hearthstone, but at some point I just started playing Hearthstone. I think I was playing League of Legends at the time, and this was probably in, I don't know, 2014, 2015. So League of Legends was really big. It was still kind of newish, but it was really growing and gaining big traction. And I would play my friends. I think when I would watch some streamers, sometimes the streamers playing League would be playing like Hearthstone between games.
Yep.
Because at the time, I think the matches you could get shorter matches, or if they're a really high ranked player in League, it would take forever to find a match. They'd be sitting in queue for 5 or 10 minutes. They're really high elo.
Yep.
So I'd seen them playing. I'm like, what's this game? This seems fun. I've always liked strategy games, board games. I really like chess. I'm like, this game seems fun. Let me check it out. And then so I find out, it's Blizzard. It's like World of Warcraft universe. So I got big into Hearthstone. I played Hearthstone for years. Did you ever play Hearthstone?
I did. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
So I started just after, it was like shortly after Naxxramas came out, that first kind of expansion. So when I started, Naxxramas was already in the game, and they had already nerfed like 2 of the really like broken cards. And I played all the way until about Journey to Ungoro is when this is the dinosaur one.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Okay.
With the quests, when they first introduced quests.
Yes.
And then I think a little bit after that is when like Ben Brode left Blizzard and left Hearthstone. But I played for a long time and I loved it. It was my favorite game. I didn't put too much money into it. I'd spend a little bit, but I'd play. Some of my friends played. I was a big warrior player, control warrior. And I loved it because I love card game strategy. So I'd kind of stopped playing League. I'd stopped playing like most kind of other games, any kind of shooters or anything. I could just sit there kind of on my own time, even though you're playing against somebody, you're not like in a rush. And so I was big into that. And then I kind of fizzled out. They kept releasing new expansions, but they're getting bigger and bigger. They used to do expansion, maybe that's like 150 cards.
Yep.
And then they would do the, what do they call the quest things, like Naxxramas, Blackrock Mountain, Adventure?
Oh, man, I forgot to.
The Adventures? Were they called Adventures?
It might have been. It sounds familiar. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, but those were cheaper because they wouldn't release as many cards. Those like Adventures would have like 30. Right. And then there's also like this you'd play against the computer, you'd have like these fun missions, really unique. It provided a lot of gameplay, a lot of like time playing. And so I would buy those. You'd buy like $25, but then you'd unlock all the cards as you do those games. And so it was really fun, really cool way to release the cards.
Yeah.
But then they stopped releasing those as much, and they started releasing more expansions each year because they need the money. It's probably the reality.
Sure.
And the expansions got bigger, 150 or 180 cards, right, every 3 months. And I just couldn't keep up with the new cards. I didn't put much money into it. So many of the new cards, even like legendaries, which are supposed to be good, like a lot of legendaries were just bad. They were mean. Yeah. And, Hearthstone didn't. They started later on kind of nerfing cards more. But at first, there was very little adjustments, right? They didn't buff bad cards. There were so many bad cards. Each expansion was like 70% of the cards you're never going to see play. Or
yeah, that's true. Yeah.
And the remaining ones you would. But they didn't really make too many, adjustments like buffs or nerfs. They started more later. But so I just kind of fizzled out. I just kind of felt like I was falling behind, and I'd just been playing a long time. It happens. I've been playing for years and for a lot. I played a lot of Arena in Hearthstone. I was really good at Arena, so I would pay the 150 in-game gold to get in, and you get 7 or more wins, you get that gold back plus extra. So I was actually getting a lot of resources as, for free. I didn't put that much money into the game, but I was pretty good at Arena, which I liked, and that's why I like draft mode. And then, so I kind of stopped, and then I'm like, what else can I play? What other games are out there? Elder Scrolls was coming out with like a card game. And then I finally heard about Legends of Runeterra, which is the League of Legends universe. They have their own Legends of Runeterra, and that's recently kind of announced they're going to some changes. I started playing that, and I'm like, okay, well, I watched a bunch of Crip for Hearthstone. That was like kind of my go-to. And then I'm like, what about Runeterra? There's like 2 guys. One of them was Mega Mogwai. And so I watched a ton of him from Runeterra. I played Runeterra a good amount. I didn't play it for even, I think, a year. It had a really good free-to-play experience. That's what it's like known for. Kind of its downfall, though. But really good free-to-play experience. It doesn't generate money, but it was like League was generating all the money. And it was just like game people to League. But it just the look of the game, Hearthstone was very polished. Hearthstone looked good.
Yeah.
It felt good when you went and looked in your collection. It had like the book open up. You could see the cards, they're gold. It looked like you could almost touch them. It was almost like a binder of Yu-Gi-Oh cards. Like Hearthstone was beautiful. It's a beautiful game. Legends and Runeterra did not look as polished. And so The gameplay was all right. It was fine. I was having fun. I knew a lot of the characters because I played League, but it just didn't stick around, and so I stopped. And I stopped playing video games for the most part. I don't know if I was still playing Rocket League at this time. I got big into Rocket League phase. When I moved and I had less good Wi-Fi, I started lagging in Rocket League, so I stopped playing that. And overall, I'm like, you know what? I'm playing too many video games. Like, I'm getting older. I need to get stuff done in life, focus on like work or looking for work at times, and then just being productive. And so I kind of just stopped playing video games, and I played a little bit of like Pokemon Go, but that was it. And then I got that itch back, right? I mean, you always do. It's like you get the itch, like, oh, I just want to play something. Like, I know I've been killing it. I've been so good. I've been so productive. I spend my time well. I spend my time improving my skills. That really became a focus of mine, especially like during COVID. I made sure to do at least one productive thing every day, even when I had like nothing to do in COVID. And so I just kept that mentality of productivity, and I just kept it and kept it. And I'm like, video games are bad for my productivity because I play a game, especially a new game where you sit there for 6 hours. And you're
I
like,
know.
I didn't do anything today. I didn't go to the store. I didn't do the dish, and so I got the itch back about last November.
Okay.
November 2022.
Yep.
And I'm like, you know what? I got the itch back. I don't want to go crazy on some like RPG. I love RPGs like Skyrim and stuff. I used to play a ton. I'm like, I'm going to sink hours into one of those. If I start modding Skyrim again or get a new RPG I haven't played, I'm going to sink hours into it. Let me do something I'm comfortable with, something that I think I can do kind of reasonably, casually. It's not going to take too much time. Let me play Legends of Runeterra again. Let me see where that game's at. It's been a while since I've played. I know I'm probably missing a bunch of cards, but had a really good free-to-play experience, so I can start up again. So I'm like, okay, I want to know what the game's like, though, because when I left, actually, the meta wasn't a bad spot. It was very aggro-focused. And I think Legends of Runeterra has been kind of prone to that at times. It was just like super aggro meta.
Yeah.
And so that's kind of like when I left, is the gameplay had lost a bit of value for me. So I'm like, let me see where it's at right now. Hopefully it's not too aggro based, and hopefully it's not too many RNG cards, because that was also another factor of Hearthstone. It had a lot of cards, but there were so many just RNG effects. Like Discover came out, and Discover was okay, but there was it Yogg Saron was the old god that would do all the spells? No, Yogg Saron was the one that was blasting all the points, but there's the one old gods that played all the spells.
I've never played the game, but I have heard of it. Yeah.
No, for Hearthstone. Sorry,
oh, Hearthstone. Yeah.
Was it Yogg Saron that was the spells?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. Yeah. The other one was like a Cthulhu one that was all the damage one. Yeah, but Yogg Saron, and so you'd play all these spells in Hearthstone. For every spell you played, if you played Yogg Saron, like on turn 10, it was turn energy, it would play a random spell with a random target for every spell you played. And this card was seen playing tournaments, like at high level.
Crazy. Yeah.
It was like a backfall, like a player, you're playing mage, you cast like, 12 spells during the game.
Yep.
If you think you're about to lose, just play Yogg Saron, pray to RNGesus, and see if you can win a world championship with it. It's like, and so RNG had really kind of sunk the gameplay for me there a bit. So that was really two things I was worried about. I was worried about RNG heavy games where it just comes down to that, and there's less tactical, because I do like tactical elements of games. And I was worried about aggro for Runeterra. So I'm like, I want to make sure that I'm not going to jump in and hate the game right away. Let me see where the game's at. Let me go check Mega Mogwai's YouTube channel. I was watching him for Runeterra when I stopped playing. Let me go see where it's at. I go to pull up Mega Mogwai. It's a bunch of Marvel Snap videos. I say, what's this? What is Marvel Snap? I've never heard of this. And this was after the beta's already over. Like the game's live. This is November of 2022. This is Black Panther season. This is a couple months after.
Okay.
I'm like, what the heck is Marvel Snap? I'm like, well, Mogwai's playing it. Let me, it looks kind of fun, easy, casual. Oh, it only has 6 turns. Oh, I went to research it first because I was really worried about downloading a new game. Like I was worried I'm going to download and get addicted. So I really want to make sure it's going to be a game I liked. It was like a big deal for me that I told people like I had stopped playing video games. So it was like an accomplishment in mine. Be like, I don't play video games anymore. But I had this itch. And so I look it up and it's like, oh, Ben Brode is leading this team called Second Dinner, and they make this game Marvel Snap. I'm like, well, I like what Ben Bro did with Hearthstone, so I'm
Yep,
probably gonna like
yep.
this game. And so it was really Mega Mogwai that's how I found the game, and then learning it was Ben Bro. And so I downloaded it, and then of course instant regret because I was instantly addicted. You know, what happened to all of us when we download Snap, where you just get instantly addicted. This is fun. The games are fast, and oh my goodness, I must be super good. I must have all this Hearthstone Runeterra experience because I'm just beating all these people. Oh, I'm in like pool 1, but man, all these people I'm facing, they must be real people, and they're
Right.
absolute trash. I just won 30 games in a row. I'm like, oh my God, I think I'm the greatest player to ever come to this game.
So you find out that's all bots.
Yeah. Yeah. But the new player experience is so good because all you do is win.
Oh
And
yeah.
then I was
No
literally,
doubt.
I was counting every game. I'm like, how far can I keep this going? I won like the first 32 games. And then I was still in pool 1. I hit infinite and it was still pool. And now if you hit infinite, even if you're in pool 1 and Snap, you will get matched versus pool 3 players because there's
Yes.
just no more bots for anyone past
Yep.
infinite. But back then it wasn't like that. Back then infinite
Yep.
had bots. You're pool 1 infinite, you're still against pool 1. And the ranks would go up. It wasn't like the global leaderboard. So you'd hit
Yeah.
infinite rank 100. Then you keep climbing to 101, 102, etc. So I hit like rank 120. And this is like, I started playing, it was like the last week to 2 weeks of the November season. And so I really wanted to hit infinite to get the rewards.
Yep.
And I hit infinite in like a week because it was all against bots. And then I got to like rank 120. And I was texting my friends like, yo guys, like I'm rank 120. Like I'm so good at this game. Like I just must be boy genius out here, you know. Change my game name to
Oh,
Jimmy
man.
Neutron or something. Like, I'm
Right.
just
Yeah.
killing it.
Yeah.
And then later I learned, you know, I get to pool 2, face the real people, pool 3, and then I learned, oh, it was all bots when I started. But that's how I found it. It was through Mega Mogwai because I got the itch to play video games again.
There you go.
And he was playing it at the time. And then, you know, I started playing it, Mega Mogwai, left, Snap, went back to Runeterra. Runeterra got the bad news that they're basically shutting down their main
Yep.
PvP stuff. They're going to like this PvE mode. So then Mogwai comes back to Snap, says, okay, you know, I understand Snap's more monetized, but it has a better future because it's monetized. So I'm back in Snap. And then Mogwai 3 nights ago just put out another video. He's now leaving Snap permanently. He's going to Magic. That's going to be where he plans to be forever for the
Yep.
deck building. I don't know. Did you watch this video?
I didn't see the video, but I did hear about it. I think I heard about
Okay.
that because Cam Best used to talk about him a good amount, and I think
Okay.
I think I heard him mention that he was leaving the game again, but I didn't hear why.
Yeah, yeah. He hadn't uploaded a video. So it's kind of like the Dewberry situation where I was like, oh, this person has an upload of a Snap video in like 2 or 3 weeks. Are they leaving? You know, that's how it was with Dewberry before he put out his official
Yeah.
like exit video. And so Mogwai, I'm like, what's going on with Mogwai? And then he did. I watched the video. He's leaving Snap. And so I always follow closely with him, even when he's not making Snap videos, because I followed him for so long for Runeterra. And now I followed, he got me into Snap, and now we're both content creators because I wasn't a content creator before. So he's definitely a big inspiration for me.
That's
And
awesome.
yeah, he's now going to go to Magic and hopefully be there permanently. And he said actually, he thinks maybe his problems with Snap weren't the meta or the monetization of the game, but he really loves deck building. That's his thing. Is he's creating decks all the time. He's very creative deck builder. He's very talented. And there's just not many cards or combos in Snap, whereas Magic has, I don't know, it's like thousands and
Oh
thousands of
yeah.
cards. Like,
Yeah.
so that's why he's going to Magic, and he believes that's, you know, it took him the second Snap journey to realize it's actually just like a limited card pool and deck building creative opportunities. So yeah, he's back in Magic. So kind of sad that he's leaving Snap again, but yeah, I'm gonna keep up with him. I mean,
Yeah.
it's kind of
Yeah.
crazy how the timelines work like that. But
How it goes. Yeah. No, yeah, it's well, you know, I can see his point. I mean, back from when I played Magic, you know, and not the digital version, but you know, we were
yeah,
playing with the actual cards. that was the thing. I laugh about it because I bet this is, I mean, this is going back a ways. This is when my wife and I first got married. So this is a
Oh,
long
I
time
heard the
ago.
story. I heard this one.
Right. Yeah. It's like,
Yeah.
and I'm spreading cards out all over the floor. Right. I had my binders and all kind of stuff there and just making stuff. And that's a big thing. So I can understand why
Yeah.
that's a big thing for him, because yeah, you're only going to, with the good thing, I guess, is with Snap, there may be some bad cards, but there aren't any complete, like, there are so many cards in Magic that were just trash that no one ever used.
Same
Ever
with
put in their
Hearthstone.
deck.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
just released too many cards. They couldn't make 180 relevant ones if they
Yeah.
released at the time.
Yeah, no doubt. So, yeah, look, it's cool journey. I am a big RPG or two, by the way, just so you know. I still have Final Fantasy Rebirth sitting in my PlayStation, and I haven't touched it probably since the day I bought it, because I've been playing this a lot. But oh my God, since the very first days of the Final Fantasy games, which are my favorite ones, I would get lost in those, and I could play them for hours and hours and then before you look at it, it's like, oh my God, I need to go to bed. It's like 2:00 in the morning. I got work the next day. So I get you. It's like I don't play them nearly as much as I did. If something comes out that I really know I want to, I will, but then a lot of times I get wrapped up in that. And like you said, it's hard because we have things to do. And you just can't sit there and do that anymore. So I can relate to where you're coming from with that.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome. So yeah, well, it's great when I bring people on. So many people, and the minute I know you were talking about Hearthstone, I'm like, yep, he's going to tell me about Ben Brode. So many people like followed him here. That they knew he came from there, and he's like, oh man, Ben's making another game. This is going to probably be good.
Yeah.
So
yeah, I wish I knew about it sooner. I wish I was like. I knew Ben Brode, and I learned after finding Snap through Mogwai that Ben Brode has made it. But I wish I had heard that he was making a game before it came out, and I could have gotten the beta, or even not. I could just start playing once it went live, because I did miss out on like some of those seasons that were after the game launched. So I just wish I knew about it earlier, because I'm like, dang, like obviously now I'm like, oh, I wish I had those, extra couple months or whatever.
I'll play people from that every now and then, and I'll see that cool black costume Spider-Man card back.
Yes,
they'll have that black. I'm like, oh man, that's pretty sick. Too bad I couldn't get that. But yeah. Oh man, that's cool. I love it. I love hearing about, like I said, where people come from and things like that. So, all right. I'm going to ask you some, I want to follow up with you a little bit on things with the future of the game. You talked about the past, right? You talked about the new player experience, which I loved.
It's great. One of the best I've ever seen in a
no
game
doubt.
Like this.
It's so much fun playing. I remember I got addicted to it simply because I wanted to see what card I was getting next. And then I can remember finding a list. I'm like, well, how the hell do I find out? And that's when I found like Snap Zone and stuff, because I'm like, okay. Yep. And then they'd have all their list of stuff, and you could check off each card as you get it. So I'm like, oh, this is cool. So I'm going, and it was just so much fun playing and building decks and stuff with the stuff you had, because you really didn't know what else was out there at the time. So you were just making things and you were going. And I remember playing Zoo a lot. Remember them playing Wong a lot. And then, but it really was. It was a fun new player experience. So I want to ask you, like, as far as someone coming into the game now, do you think that there needs to be changes made for the new player experience? Something. I mean, I know people have recommended, that have come on the show, said, put a bundle in there and let them buy a bundle for a deck. You'd still make money, right? Even if you charge, like Magic the Gathering charges $20 for a starter deck, you'll still make money. Charge them $20 and give them a destroy deck, or give them a, whatever, and allow them to try to compete a little more in order to get up that ladder. See, Series 3 is an issue. It just is. It takes forever, and you can sometimes get bad cards and stuff like that, and you just can't really compete very much. But yeah, if you were looking at that from a dev standpoint, like new game experience, what would you maybe change a little bit about it?
Yeah, so I don't think I would touch the pool 1 or pool 2, like very early experience. I think that it feels so good. You're still against mainly bots. You're getting cards pretty fast.
Yeah.
Once you get into pool 3, it's kind of awkward thing, and I am so curious. Secondary has so much data. I'm so curious as to what their data shows is the point that players kind of fall off,
Yeah.
because it used to be like pool 3. It takes a while. Don't get me wrong. It takes a while to get the cards. I remember thinking that, but you're still opening them on the collection track.
Mm-hmm.
You're still getting a new card 1 to 2 every week. But then it used to be once you're done with pool 3, well, now you're getting nothing.
Yeah.
And before spotlight caches, it's like if you finish pool 3, your odds of opening at pool 4 or 5 are so low.
Yep.
So you're buying it with tokens or you're just opening nothing. That feels so bad. So
Yeah.
the spotlight caches did help out with that. But I still wonder, is the worst point someone who's new to pool 3? Or is it still once someone finishes pool 3? Because when you finish pool 3, yeah, you have all those cards, but now you're opening cards at a slower pace, and new things feel good. New things keep players going. So it's a tough spot. I get the idea of being able to buy a deck and, just be able to, even if it's just like Series 3 cards mainly, have that for a player who's new to Series 3. I think that's a good chance. I think that's not a bad idea, especially from a dev side thing, right? You make it cost money.
Yeah.
And they're obviously dropping over time more cards to Series 3, so it's still going to take a while for players to get up. But you're going to buy that deck, and then you're going to get tired of it. And, what is the deck? Is it a Destroy deck? If you bought that Destroy deck and you got tired of it, you're not using any of those cards for anything else.
That's true.
It's not like you're buying a Jeff. Or, what I mean?
Yeah, that's true.
So it's a tough situation as to how do you improve that. Maybe you keep it as is, but you make it so, because when I became pool 3 complete, I was around 3,300 collection level, and that was kind of the standard. You do like 3,000, 3,300. But now I'll see people in my chat or Discord, they get collection 3 complete at like 4,200 or 4,500 because more cards have dropped down.
Right.
And yeah, they have now. Granted, they have Series 4 and Series 5 cards. I never randomly opened a Series 4 or Series 5 card when in the old system. Like I didn't have any. It was all Series 3 and that's it. And now these players, they don't have all the Series 3, but they do have some newer cards. Like you can get a brand new card. So the Spotlight did kind of fix that a bit. So I don't know. It's so tough is to figure out what to do. Maybe you just speed up the process. As Pool 3 grows, it's getting bigger and bigger.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe you have the cards you open spaced a little closer together. Maybe they're not so far apart. That wouldn't break the bank. It doesn't put too much of a burden on second dinner, especially over time. Players are unlocking those cards anyways. For the most part, if they want to speed one up, they can get their free card a month in the shop, or you can buy it for like 1,000 tokens if you're looking for a specific one. But I think if the pool gets big enough, you could just have these Series 3 cards that you open from the reserve caches, whatever they're called, the normal ones.
The collectors.
Collectors are just have them closer together so you open more cards. And that way it doesn't matter that it's still going to take a while because it still feels good. Every time you open a card, it just feels nice. Okay.
Yeah.
And that's something that players miss once they hit the wall of Series 3 complete. And so I think you can do that for Series 3, maybe speed it up. Once Series 3 complete happens, is it just spotlights? Do you need some assistance there? Right. That's another question. And then returning players. Returning players is where I think actually would need the most assistance because that's the feel bad. You come back and now you feel like you lost so much time. Whereas new players, you don't have all the cards, but you're new to the game. You're still getting new ones. It still feels okay. I think the worst might actually be for returning players that miss time. So I would do some kind of bundle for Hearthstone started doing after a while. If you haven't played in like 3 months, they just give you a deck. Like they just give you like a meta deck, I think. For Snap, they could do, if you haven't played in a couple months, maybe you spend $10 and you get some deck, or you get like these 5 Series 5 cards, or something.
Yeah, I would agree. I had a guest on the show a while back, Lauren. She mentioned something similar to what you did. She said, make the track shorter. So it does make sense because you're right. You're 100% right. I think that's that new player experience. The big part of that is getting packs. Or opening, not packs, but opening the caches, right? Opening the new card. And once you're away from that and you're done with that, it kind of does get to the point where it's like, it's okay, but now it's taking me longer of a time to get. I pulled some rare like stuff like early on. I remember that's one of the reasons why I love Galactus so much. I pulled him
Oh, you
very
got him
early
early. You
on.
got so lucky.
Yeah, well, at the time, it's a funny story because when I pulled him out, I really wanted Thanos when they announced all of those, right? The big bats.
Right.
I really wanted Thanos. And when I pulled Galactus, I remember I was in the bathroom. I was going to work for them. I pulled him out and I'm like, oh, this is cool. And then I'm looking and I'm like, but why would I want to blow up the other locations? And I'm thinking, and now when I looking back, I'm like, you dummy, you could have taken Spider-Man, thrown him in there, and you could have won so many games because probably hardly anyone had it. But yeah, no, that was tough. That was really tough. Like the fact that they were so hard to open up and get. It was like, oh,
I never opened any, and I think when they introduced Spotlight caches, I was maybe at like 4,000 to 5,000 CO, and they said like the odds for me not having opened any Series 5, it was like under 50%. So I kind of felt bad. I'm like, dang, I never got lucky. But I'm glad Lauren said the similar idea because she's really smart and good at math. So that means my idea is pretty good too.
She is.
So I'm glad we had the same idea because that means I'm pretty good.
Yes.
But I liked what you said about packs. Part of Hearthstone, and I talked about how good the game felt where you opened your collection of cards and you flipped the pages. The UI was just beautiful. Opening card packs felt so good. You click on it, it would pop up on the screen, you'd do like a little shake, and then the cards pop out. They're all flipped over. You flip them over one by one. You can take your time. You hover over it, sees the rarity. I mean, such a great, even when you're not getting new cards, like a lot of times you'd open new card packs just to get cards to turn them to dust. And then when those dust, you can make specific cards you want from like the same expansion or different one. But even when you're just opening it for dust, it's just such a good feeling. I mean, there's websites that are just card pack simulators. Like it's just Hearthstone card packs. You just click it, click open. It's not linked to your account or anything. It doesn't do anything. It's just like a fun thing to do. Like it's just, it feels good. And so that's time with Marvel Snap. It feels good to open cards. It's not the same feeling. It doesn't feel, as good as like a card pack. But then once you stop opening cards altogether, that's why the Spotlight system did end up helping. But it's a hard spot when you're playing a card game and you're not opening new cards, or at least saying that's, you could argue it's disguised as a card game, but traditional card games all have card packs and you open cards. And especially if you play them as a kid, like you said, you go to the store, you buy some packs, you don't know what's inside, you open it. Like card packs are card games, and so for Snap not having that, it's a big change. And it's like, well, it's kind of a card game, it's kind of not, so it's one of those difficult things. That's I don't know how they change or adjust it. It's not an easy task.
I often wondered if I think I was watching Cozy's video today with Alex, and I think at a point in the show they mentioned something for the future. Maybe have them take a month off of cards and then release another subset, like completely stop for 1 month making cards, right? No cards for the month, no Spotlight cash stuff for the month, and then release another set of like 15 cards where you can start getting cards again. Because to have people go back and play that new and feel that new player experience again, which I thought was interesting. I'm like, I don't think they'd ever do that because there's really no reason for them to. But it kind of does bring back those memories. Because again, to your point, one of the reasons why I loved playing Magic so much was to open the packs. I'd go out and I'd buy a box and I'd be sitting through there. Myself and my friends would be at the table. We'd be, what'd you get? What'd you get? What'd you get? We'd be opening up these packs. And that was the fun of it. Someone would pull like an ultra rare card or something like a foil card. And it's like, oh my God, this is amazing. But yeah, you're right. Like once you get past that point, you're not really doing that anymore. And now, yes, you have the Spotlight caches, but in essence what you're going to get in those every single time.
It's not the same feeling. And that's why even, Pokemon cards, people don't play Pokemon as a game. Like people rarely, if you have someone who has like Pokemon cards, they rarely actually play Pokemon. You just collect them. You just open the packs, like try to get, shiny Charizard or something. It's just like a cool thing. And with Snap, like you mentioned, Snap is so different. It's another card packs. but and it's got pros and cons, right? And the whole Snap, and you'll hear Glenn Jones on Second Dinner has talked about this. Most games have expansions. Okay,
Sure.
they release cards in sets.
Yep.
And so there's an argument or a thought that you could do that in Snap, release things in a set. That's good. But the downside is with Snap not releasing things in sets. If you look at other games, really any game, Hearthstone, Runeterra, whatever, they release a set and it's really new. It's really exciting. You got all these new cards. Basically, all the decks, all the archetypes get new cards, right?
Yep.
Like you all get new stuff. And then you play those exact same things for like 3 or 4 months until the next set comes out. So by month 3 or 4, the game is really stale.
Yeah.
Because you haven't had anything, right? It's like just this huge burst of excitement.
Yep.
And then just this drop off. So all the time players are playing, they stop playing, a new expansion comes out, a player base is back. They stop playing, right? It's constant coming and going, like returning players. Players are constantly taking breaks. That's not necessarily a bad thing. That maybe helps longevity, right? If you take a break from something for like a month and then you come back, you might actually play it more years, like, time wise. But with Snap, it's very constant. You don't have these purposeful lulls. There are times where the meta people complain about, but you're getting a new thing or potential to get a new thing every week. And the meta's potential to change every week, and they're doing patches, OTAs. So it's just a completely different system. It's not really built like a card game. It's just looks like a card game, in game when you're playing a card. But
yeah,
I mean, it's Ben Brode had said it in an interview. The idea for Snap came from, obviously he loved Hearthstone and his ideas there. And he loved how quick and fast Clash Royale was, which is an app on your phone. It's a very quick game. You have 10 cards in your deck. You cycle them through. You cycle the same cards over and over, but you just play them on 2 lanes. Okay, there's multiple lanes in the game. There's 3 towers. And then here we are on Snap with 3 locations. It's also a very short game and, very small deck size. And in this case, it's 12. And, very similar. So would you call Clash Royale a card game? I mean, those cards have like energy costs. Well, not really. Well, Snap is really like Clash Royale, but, they call it cards like Hearthstone, but it's gameplay a bit similar to Hearthstone, but in reality of how the game functions with decks and card releases and new stuff, it's like Clash Royale. It is a mobile game that's kind of disguised as a card game, and that's always going to be a challenge because you have people like myself who came from Hearthstone that still think of it as a traditional card game, and it's simply not.
Yeah, I'd heard it described as Clash Royale meets poker. More than a few
that works. I think with the cube system, it's poker. But Ben Brode had said in an interview how he obviously liked Hearthstone and wanted to combine it with short, fun gameplay like Clash Royale. So definitely the dev team and Ben Brode for sure had those games in mind. Said, can we combine very successful Hearthstone with very successful Clash Royale? Oh, we could do, and then maybe they're like, oh, we could do the poker system of snapping. So
yeah, no doubt.
Which is a great system. That's really unique. The snapping poker elements are something that a lot of digital or trading card game players are not used to. I've played a bit of poker. I'll go through phases where I'm like watching a bunch of poker online and stuff, just like Texas Hold'em. And it's interesting to learn about the bluffing. It's not the same level of bluffing that you get in Snap, but it's still the elements there a bit. It really adds a whole layer. So it's really, I guess, like a combination of 3 games, right? You got traditional card games, you got this phone kind of lane battler, Clash Royale, and then you've got poker. So it's got mechanics from everything. But if you're only expecting mechanics from one thing, that's where you might, be disappointed or want the big expansions kind of thing.
Yeah, no doubt. So, and we'll do a quick look ahead, and then we'll go into some of the stuff. But when you saw the developers, or not developers, but when you saw the thing that they were supposed to have on that IGN
development roadmap,
I sat there waiting during that IGN thing for 4 hours of sheer torture. I came home bad. At 5. Oh my God, they were so bad. And then of course what we got out of it, right? So a new game mode obviously is Deadpool's Diner, which, after people really figured it all out, which this is what I didn't understand about that. Like when they finally came on Sunday, why not start there and say, hey, we've got this cool new game mode that we're coming out with, and we're going to give you a free card. You're going to get a free card instead of having to pay for Cassandra Nova this coming month. We're giving you a free card, and all you have to do is play the new game mode. But instead, they mention it a little bit. They don't really go over it. So it left a lot of people. In fact, so many people were confused, asking, like flooding the devs with questions about that for a couple of days. And then, then they show that map, right? And then the map was so much smaller than previously, which is okay. I think previously they put too much that they just couldn't get to, right? Or couldn't do. So that was okay. But, and then everybody wanted a draft. Everybody wants a draft. Everybody, you would mention it yourself. I know I would love to do it. I did it in Magic many times. And we saw it, but then everybody's comments to that were, it's on that right side of the map. That right side of the map probably never gets done. So, I mean, as a Snap player and obviously a content creator, what do you think after seeing that? What do you think of the Deadpool thing that's coming up? And then, like, what do you think of the roadmap, like, and the stuff you're seeing going forward?
So, and this is a problem that's been around in Snap for a while. It was a problem with kind of spotlight caches that had a lot of, like, people doubtful.
Yeah.
They don't actually make very bad decisions. If you look at what they actually do and when they implement things like these spotlight caches and when they make some changes, even to albums, there's always a point about albums because they cost a lot of gold if you want to complete them. But now there's just so many of them. Like haven't completed any, but I have some where I've just gotten free rewards from opening random cards. Like there's actually been, there's the booster shop now where it gets boosters for cards you want. And I have boosters for excess boosters for every card I need, except for a couple. So I get, Legion in my shop every reset. Like they've made some good upgrades and changes. They have not communicated them properly.
Yeah,
okay. They've seemed to now on, they do have the new Discord, like community manager, Griffin. Yeah. So he's been getting more updates. Griffin's been doing a great job, but they still have a lot of work to do. And still, Griffin more handles like reactive stuff, still proactive stuff. Like you mentioned, they should have came up and said, we got this game mode, you get a free reward. And when I learned about the game mode after, like the game mode seems good. It seems fun. Mm-hmm. It might be really good actually. And the roadmap itself, I think, is fine. They've been bad at presenting things. They've given themselves bad PR. Okay. Yeah. They've had a lot of fine or all right decisions with bad PR around it. So, that's been where they just need to be more proactive and need better. Just, I don't know, PR team, like know how things are going to be received. Don't be tone deaf in, how you present materials. So, did you see Guest Gaming's video on Deadpool Diner?
I did not. Okay.
Guest Gaming put out a video. I think it was about the whole roadmap. Actually, He said in the video, it's titled, it's funny. It's like, this is what they should have said or something. And it's guest standing there like, and in it, he's pretending kind of to like be a second dinner person presenting at IGN. Like, this is what they should have presented as. And they actually linked the video. If you open your Marvel Snap app and you go over to the community tab.
Oh yeah.
In they now like will post some creator videos.
I've seen that. Yeah.
I think probably Griffin started doing that. Guest Gaming, his video is on top right now. So they posted his development roadmap explanation video, which is super cool. They did that. It's a very helpful video. Because I watched that to learn Deadpool's Diner. He explained it so well. I'm like, man, Second Dinner needs to hire this man. Okay,
just right? Yeah, man. Yeah,
he'll present stuff. He'll present new things in a fun, energetic way. And so, Deadpool's Diner sounds really fun and really good. After I learned about it from the guest video, because I had no idea what it was talking about from the explanation. At one point, it says risk versus reward. So I'm like, are you just gonna lose all your bubs after you get them, and then only the Lambies and the Cam-Bests of the world get the Cassandra Nova? But then I watched guest video, and he's like, oh well, there's floors. Like once you hit a new floor, you can't drop below that. There's like floor caps, whatever. Yeah. And I'm like, oh, I wish I knew that from the original Second Dinner message. So I think it's fine. Deadpool's Diner, we need new game modes. I think it's going to be really fun. It is like a temporary mode that they said maybe they're planning to bring back every couple of months, which I think is fine. You're not going to get tired of it. When it cycles back in, it's going to be really fun. League of Legends would do this with game modes. They would like have temporary kind of fun modes. The point about improved technical performance, that one's kind of weird. It's like, aren't you guys always doing that? I'm not sure what that's about on the roadmap. Custom card improvements. I'm not sure the specifics because they've been doing a good job actually of the custom card system and where you can transfer across splits and stuff. That's all new. I've been enjoying that a lot. I assume they maybe mean new, more card backs and border types than what they've added.
I think we're getting that. What did they call it? Ultimate? Is it Ultimate Border? The one that looks like a galaxy that we saw data mined. It looks like my thing here, my background a little bit.
It was like galaxy background. Galaxy
Yeah.
split thing. So I think that's what that means. It's weird. I don't know when Deadpool's Diner comes out, but the Wolverine Deadpool movie comes out in like a month.
Comes out the 27th of July, actually. Yeah.
But then they said alliances come out the last day of July. It's like July 30th or July 31st.
Yes.
So I was like, why is that in development? Shouldn't that be the coming soon?
Next month, right?
I'm like, that sounds kind of soon. That's going to be really good with the chat feature. It's going to be very bare bones at first, but that's fine. Just having a clan or alliance.
I know everybody's calling it clans. The chat feature is tremendous. I'm so glad.
The chat, even if I think it is going to launch with like some missions and stuff. But even if it wasn't that, even if it was just 25 people with a chat feature, I think that's really good. Especially like, look, I make videos. I have regular viewers. I have people in my Discord that are chatting a lot. And so for me, I already have a community. But for people, I think of when I played Clash of Clans or Clash Royale, I didn't maybe at certain times know any of my in real life friends who play the game. So I would join a random clan that you just search up and then you talk to people and then, maybe you learn some stuff. You guys can battle together. But it's just cool to do. And there's a lot of people. I don't have any in real life friends right now that aren't like content creators that I met through Snap, people I knew before Snap that play the game. I have some that tried it, but none that still play. And there's a lot of people out there. So if you're someone and you don't really like keep up with a content creator and want to like join their community, and you don't have any friends who play Snap, you can just join a random clan and now you can actually talk to people, right? It's very good for casual players. Me and you, we already talked to people in the community, right? Everyone who's listening to this already talks to people in the community.
Yeah.
But most casuals don't, especially the ones that aren't looking up YouTube, Snap YouTube, or on obviously non-Snap Twitter and stuff. So that's going to be awesome. The leagues, I'm whatever about leagues. It's kind of whatever.
Yeah, that's kind of meh. Yeah.
Yeah, they're going to make some improvements, they said, from when they launched. But it's not a new game mode. It's just a point system based off current game modes. But I think it transcends across ranked mode and conquest, which feels weird. But I don't know. We'll see how they implement that. New card mechanic. I don't know what that's going to be. They just said in development.
That could be the Cassandra card. A lot of people are thinking because
it's not bolded though. It just says drain, but they have Baron Zemo says recruit. Makkari says run. I mean, it's like
true.
I think they want
better than that.
I think they want something bolded, like how they have bold ongoing, bold on. So we'll see. We'll see what it is. Then they have collectible infinity splits. I don't know what the collectible infinity.
I'm not 100% sure what that is either. So you're splitting the card. And then,
so you get to infinity like you normally do. And then maybe it's saying you can, maybe it's to do with custom card stuff. That's what it reads to as me. It's more custom card stuff. So we'll have to see.
Yeah.
But there's obviously no detail. Obviously the in-card concept is far away. They've got draft mode, which people love. I don't know how casual players feel about draft mode. I don't know if they care. But active community loves draft mode. Card acquisition improvements. In concept, are they saying they're going to change the spotlight cash system because it's kind of broken?
I would
probably.
Bet. Yeah, they've been telling people that in the dev chat. Yeah, that was coming.
Yeah, so that's probably what it is. And then alliances competition. So just further upgrade alliances. So I think in reality, when this is giving us a new game mode, which looks really fun after I watched Guest Gaming's video, we're getting a free card out of it. They seem to want to improve the game's performance and also just visuals with more custom card stuff. That's a win. And I'm not counting leagues because I don't really care too much and I'm unsure. But then alliances, and then they're going to keep working on and improving alliances after time. That's a win. Like in reality, I think the roadmap has 3 wins. I think those 3 wins were very poorly presented.
They were.
And people didn't see them, and everyone was disappointed and thought we're getting a bunch of losses. And, it's like, how I look at it now, I'm like, I think we got some good stuff coming, but it just didn't seem like that at the time, even for me.
Yeah. The presentation left something to be desired. Yeah, that's for sure. Because you're right. I mean, I agree. Like I love all those things. I said it. I told everybody. Even more than, because I know the draft mode is down the road. I still don't know how they're going to implement that, how they're going to do it, and so that I wasn't even really thinking about that because that's down the road. But yeah, no, you're right. I'm super excited about the alliances chat. Super, because there's no way to communicate with anyone in this game. There just isn't. It's part of the reason why I got started playing, because when we were playing Magic, I'm face to face. I'm across somebody from a table. And that was one of the coolest things that I had, from that. The experiences, the meeting people and trading cards with people and all that other kind of stuff was just fun. And I missed that. And now I'm getting it from the Snap Judgments League because I'm actually able to talk to a person. I beforehand and then after the game and stuff, I could talk to them on Discord, which is great. I met new people. So that's going to be awesome. That's going to be really, really tremendous. Like you said, for people who may not play the game an awful lot, they can come in. People will share decks in that chat and stuff like that.
Yep.
Like here, so that's going to be awesome. For me, like that was one of the things I was most excited about when I saw it.
It's huge.
Yeah, absolutely. The Deadpool thing. Again, present it like, listen, we're giving you a free card. We haven't done that since Kitty Pryde. So you're getting a free card. I mean, and if they're going to do it every 2-3 months, you're going to get a free card every 2-3 months. So
maybe.
Yeah, right. So unless they make it something different at that point, but yeah, like I agree. I when I look back at it, I'm like, because when I was watching, and like I said, it was just bad overall, just because of circumstances. And I know I heard they didn't make the conference, the IGN thing the day before because they had technical difficulties and all this other kind of stuff. I get it. Things happen.
Yeah.
But it was just overall. And then when they did come, the way that they presented it was just awful. And it's like, after everybody got mad the way it was, because they sat up watching that thing for 4 hours and then however else long they did. And then they come out and they do it this way. And they're like, this is just really bad. Like people didn't even think that it was good. So no, I agree. But hopefully they got that straightened out. I'm definitely going to have to check out its guest's video. No doubt. I have to check that out. I did see it on there.
Everybody. He covered it so well.
I have to check that out for sure. So, all right. I want to get into some changes real quick here with you. I know these have been up for quite a while, but I figured we'll talk about them really, really quickly and let me know what you're seeing here. Shauna, of course, goes to a 3-4. She's been changed countless number of times, and I'm not really. She's being played in Zoo now, which Zoo is actually a thing, and I have to kind of eat crow because on my last podcast that I did the review of this, I was like, guys, don't talk to me about putting cards in Zoo anymore because Zoo is not played in the meta. And now all of a sudden it's being played in the meta. I'm like, well, I don't know. I said, I eat crow there. Cap got a change. He's going to a 3-3. Maybe that brings the ongoing deck back. I still haven't seen it much. Of course, and all the others. But I think that the big two here really are, well, 3. Professor X Cannonball and then, of course, Hella. Now, I will say, yes, Professor X Cannonball is – I'm not seeing it played anymore, at least in my neck of the woods, which I'm not infinite, so I'm in a different area than a lot of people might be, but I'm not seeing him played much anymore. People are still trying to make Professor X work. They're using Move now. I've seen people trying to use Heimdall to move cards into his lane and stuff. Cannonball, he still gets played, I guess, sometimes in junk. The one that really kind of got me was the Hella one, because to me, honestly, that nerf does nothing to that deck. You're bringing out an Infinite that's a 20. Is 2 points going to matter? Does it matter if you're bringing out an 18? Does it matter if you're bringing out a Death that's a 10 or a whatever else is 2 points less? I don't see it, especially with the way that deck plays for that big last turn. I don't know that 2 points of power are going to cut it very much, and I'm still seeing it played. In fact, I joked around because the first deck I played against after this patch was a Hella deck. And it's like, see, they're playing Luke Cage now too, by the way, which is ridiculous. They're putting Luke Cage in the deck. So what did you think overall of this? I like the patch. Overall, I thought it was a good one. I thought it was a good one. Gilgamesh now is being played in Zoo along with Shauna. Professor X is now not what he once was. He's really not prevalent much anymore. Red Hulk, who cares? He's still good. Cannonball, I've seen here and there. But overall, I think it was a good patch. But the Hella thing, I don't know what they can do with that card. I don't know what they can do to make that what it needs to be rather than to just rework the card. And I know they're very leery about doing that. But yeah, what were your thoughts on the balance update?
Yeah, so I agree with you. I thought it was a good patch bounce, or I guess it was OTA, right? Or was it that? Yeah, OTA overall.
Yeah.
And they changed a lot, right? We got a lot of changes on the screen. Funny enough, I don't know. I don't know if the person that changed their deck. I've seen the Professor X Cannonball, Thena Ravana deck still after this. So I was playing someone, and I'd won the first lane. We both they had it full, and so I filled it with more power. And they had locked down another lane with Professor X, and I couldn't really get in there. So I'm like, okay, well, they won that lane. I won the first. I'm gonna go win this middle lane. That's what I have to win. So I play big stuff to win the middle lane, and they play Cannonball. Oh. And so I think I was gonna win the middle anyways. But Cannonball, of course, hit my cards into Professor X, and then I ended up winning it. So they completely killed that synergy.
Yeah.
With Cannonball Professor X, but like you said, people will keep playing Professor X. He will be good. First of all, they gave him more power, which I know that kills the Ravana synergy. But more power is good. Even when a card goes from 9 to 10 power, you'll be like, oh, it dies to Shang-Chi now. Yeah, but when it doesn't die to Shang-Chi, it's more power. When you give a card more power, it is a buff. And so he obviously got a buff stat line, but his ability's worse. But he's no longer reliant on Ravana. So you now could play him like you mentioned. You put him in a move deck. You can go in and out. Maybe you played Professor X when you weren't winning the lane. Now it's more forgiving to you because you have more cards to go in, Obviously, he can get countered more, though. So I think it's good. I think it's healthy. I think he's still going to see play. He's not bad. Cannonball, we'll see what happens to Cannonball. I think he's still okay. Shang-Chi, Eliath still aren't seeing insane amounts of play right now. So
right.
I think it's still decent for Cannonball. Shanna Zoo, I've seen a little bit. +2 powers, no joke. That's a big buff.
Yeah.
So her there. The Cannonball wins, Captain America's fine. If you're playing ongoing deck, he is becoming more and more worth it just to be in. Obviously very niche though. The Ebony Blade is fine. I think it's a really good change. We don't even see too much Shadow King, but it's nice that it's not just completely invincible. I think that one's big.
Right.
Stegron, I haven't tried new Stegron, but I really like this Stegron change. I think Stegron 4/7. 7 power is a good stat line. We see 5/7. It's like Legion, Blink, Cersei, and now Cannonball's a 5/7. 7 power is really, really good in Snap. And so I'm interested to see where Stegron finds a home. Is it Clog deck? I think he's viable. The fact that they changed his ability, he's consistent. Even Juggernaut, you don't know where the card's going to go, and you can flex Juggernaut in. So Gilgamesh, I haven't tried playing again, but I don't find him super fun. I don't play.
I didn't either. Yeah.
So I'm not. I just don't like that deck style, anyways. Just like Blue Patriot Gilgamesh. So he's just not my style. So for Hela and Red Hulk, now Red Hulk got another nerf, and they nerfed his growth. So after one trigger, he's still 6/13.
Yep.
So that's the same as where he just was. But if you get 2 or more triggers, he's lower power. Okay.
Right.
And his floor, he dies to Shang-Chi, but he's rarely at his exact floor. And again, it still is a buff to base power, even though he dies to Shang-Chi now.
Yep.
But his ceiling, they lowered pretty significantly, I think. For Hela, I'm interested to see. I know you're saying you're still seeing Hela. A couple things happen when they change cards. First is people want to know, is the card still good? And with a card like Hela, who's archetype defining, there's a lot of discard players. They want to know, can I still play discard? How does it work still? I can play it, but I need to put in Luke Cage. What do I take out? Let me test stuff out. So I'm interested to see Hella's play rate over time. I'm not surprised that she's still around this first week after she got changed.
Right.
Same thing where you might see more Shanna or Professor X right now. Cards get changed. People want to see what it's about.
True.
Usually, though, and Second Dinner's come out and said this. Do you remember when they gave Shuri -1 power? She went from 4-2 to 4-1.
Mm-hmm.
And then shortly after, they gave Sauron -1 power. He went from a 3-3 to 3-2.
Yep.
So those changes, people were like, well, that does nothing. Like, you give Shuri -1 power, she's doubling Red Skull still, right?
Yep.
Sauron, you don't care about his power. He's taking away the ongoings of your big power, harmful ongoing cards so you can double Shuri. Like, that does nothing. But the play rate drops. Second Dinner comes out and says, we nerf cards, even like Shuri, with 1 power, which seems like it doesn't matter. And actually, she would get hit by Ravana. She could actually be cheaper now. People see a card get nerfed, and they say, oh, card got nerfed. Let's move on. Okay.
It's true.
I'm interested to see Hella's play rate in the long term. My guess is it lowers significantly. It's going to lower a good amount, and it may be to do with a certain deck counters her. They may just see a really big spike, and then maybe that deck comes too strong. Who knows? But I think it's going to lower a good amount. And even though, yeah, people are like, okay, now we need to run Luke Cage because our ceiling got lowered. Like, if she's reviving 4 or 5 cards, you're losing 10 power. Like, yeah, you probably still have a big Infinite. You probably still have big stuff. But if you're playing against a Toxic Surfer, you're playing against a Tribunal that may just draws okay. You know, other decks go big, and Hella doesn't counter them. So when your goal is to go over the top of every deck, lowering that ceiling, that you're hitting that ceiling a decent amount does matter. And so you're like, okay, I got to run Luke Cage. Well, but now you need Luke Cage. I mean, it's like that's a required synergistic card now. You know, that's now more of a package. That's now you got to take out your Red Hulk to put in a Luke Cage, or you got to take out a discard. You know, it does matter. It's not the biggest nerf, obviously. She's not bad now. Is she still overpowered? Does she still feel unfair? She probably still feels unfair when she goes big. Is she overpowered still? I don't know. We'll have to see. But my guess is it drops her play rate significantly. The only thing I'll say is the coding of it, because it is kind of a new ability where you're reviving these cards and then they're getting like -2 after they revive. I saw a Reddit post where someone discarded, someone played like Hella, and then because of whatever locations were on the board, they had like really cheap cards or something. So they played Hella and Hella revived cards. But that same turn, I think Hella revived like a Lady Sif, and was it Lady Sif? Yeah. Hella revived like a Lady Sif. So on the same turn, like turn 6 or 7. And so Lady Sif discard a card from their hand, and they also had Ghost Rider down that same turn. So they played like Hella, then Ghost Rider. Ghost Rider then brought back the card Lady Sif discarded, right? Yep. And Hella already did her thing, basically. Ghost Rider brings back a card, and that card also had -2 power. But it wasn't resurrected by Hella. It was resurrected by Ghost Rider. So I think it's coded to any cards that get resurrected, like during her like chain of actions, or even just during the same turn, get -2 power. So there may be some coding dilemmas in there of how it actually works. But yeah, my guess is it's a good start, and it's also now a lever for them to work on. If she still seems too good, instead of reworking her,
make it
a -3 power.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And then it comes to a point where if you don't get that Luke Cage, does your combo fall flat? Right now, you like need Hella and you need Luke Cage. I mean, it becomes more of a difficult, and they like doing that. They like adding in those levers there. So I always assume maybe they would just revive cards to a certain location, or revive like max 3 cards, kind of like how they limited Blob. But I think this is their style. This is what they like to do. Give cards a mechanism for future adjustment if needed. So I think it's a good change. Whether it's enough right now or not, it's going to lower the play rate, and it gives them something for the future. And so I think that's why they're doing it. So I think it's good, at least good for now in the meta. To be has felt better. I've seen a lot of good feedback about the meta since this patch. We'll see what the next, problem card is, if it's just Century Nihilus again or whatever, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, it's crazy. Like the meta is really, I think it's in a pretty good spot. People are playing just so many different type of decks right now, and usually that's kind of what you want to see. You don't want to see something just get overly crazy and one deck just taking up everything. So yeah, I would agree. I have to shout out, by the way, Nina is Noob does these these balance update things, and of course that's hers. In case anybody wanted to know. So yeah, I would agree. All right. Gonna move on here, and I want to get your thoughts on some upcoming cards. Obviously, we still have 3 cards left in this month, so I know you've done a video on these already, but let's talk Makkari. Makkari is tomorrow, coming out. She's a 3/4. After the turn, runs from your hand to a random location, if possible. I know what you did on this, and I'm sure everybody else who watched you did. And from everyone, it's pretty much a passable card. You think, like somebody said, maybe Surfer, it jumps into Surfer to kind of lower your, I guess in the way, if you look at it that way, it can get you maybe to some cards a little bit quicker. I don't know, in your deck, but to me, there's not a whole lot here. She's got like an M'Baku effect, but I don't really know. I think this is definitely the worst card of the month.
Yeah, and so, I mean, you watch my video, and, I like to evaluate cards, but there's some other telltale signs here. Second Dinner has made it pretty obvious to us that she sucks. I mean,
Yes.
they have all but told us that
they
she
already
sucks.
buffed it. Yeah.
And so, even more than that. So generally, you can kind of take, and sometimes not true. Before Red Hulk came out, they gave him like 1 extra power from when he was data mined, and obviously it was too strong. So sometimes they don't do it, but this one has all the signs. And so sometimes if you're unsure about your card evaluation, you can look at the card's release as a whole, where it's placed in the month, and what cards it's coming out with to get a guess. So from data mines, Makkari was a 3/3. Okay, and some people are salty, like, oh, I was going to play in Cerebro 3. Like, Cerebro didn't want this card, trust me. Cerebro did not want this card. You got saved from buying this card for your Cerebro deck, because you were going to instantly regret it. And so she was a 3/3, and they didn't just change her right when the season started. They changed her like last week. They changed her after the season started, after it's announced official. She's still 3/3. They then changed her like right before Cersei comes out. So that's a major red flag. Okay. They're still testing it, and they're like, hey, we cannot make this card work. It's not happening. Like, we need to change it to make it like seem worthwhile. We want it to be a new card. We want it to be exciting. So that's major red flag that it was changed, not just from data mines, but literally mid-season. Okay. Another big red flag was data mines. They do data mined, and they kind of predict the spotlight cache lineups, and it's not official. They could get changed. What happened here was Makkari was going to come out with X-23 and MODOK.
Mm-hmm.
And the first week of the season with Athena was going to have Grandmaster and Gladiator. Now, out of both those weeks, the X-23 MODOK, X-23's the more ideal card. She's Series 5, MODOK Series 4. A lot of discard decks don't even run MODOK. X-23 is needed for Destroy.
Oh,
very worthwhile chasing after. And you look at the Grandmaster Gladiator week. Grandmaster, he just got buffed. Still don't see a ton of play. He's niche. If you like him, you like him. If you don't, whatever. You don't need him. Gladiator's a really strong card. He's a good card. He's now Series 4, but he's still really strong. And so it was clear, those weeks, what the kind of strong existing cards were. But Athena was really good. And people thought she was going to be really good. I thought she was going to be really good. And she did. She just gave me the game. She's really good. Just as the season started, from data mines, like right before they switched it, so that Athena's week has a Gladiator and MODOK, Grandmaster and MODOK instead of Grandmaster and Gladiator. So now the existing cards are worse in terms of competitive sense. They lost Gladiator for MODOK, but Athena's really good. So that Spotlight week as a whole is worth chasing after. And Second Dinner knew Athena is going to be really good.
Yeah, they did,
because they get to play with her, and they gave Makkari the Gladiator. So Makkari in here, who already has a red flag that she's going to be the worst card of the month, is in the best spotlight cache of the month. She's paired up with X-23 and Gladiator. Like, if you don't have those cards, this is a great week to chase after. So you can look at that as well. And the last week of the season is Arishem, and he's paired up with Hercules and Black Swan. Those cards are doo-doo.
They are horrible cards.
Whether Arishem is actually going to be really strong or if he's just going to be really fun, either way, Second Dinner knows people are going to open for him. So
Yeah.
they're putting in bad cards alongside it. The fact that Makkari has the best cards of the season is another telltale sign, right? That's Second Dinner with that, and buffing her mid season tells us that she sucked.
Yeah.
Um, and so the question is really, we know we basically got confirmed that she sucked as a 3/4, and they did a similar thing with Sage last month. She was originally data mined a 4/1, and she had amazing spotlight cash with Legion, the Flaviano Legion variant, and Ink Pulp Tribunal, like insane art. And they
Oh
ended up
yeah.
buffing her to
Yeah.
3/0. So she ended up being good. But as a data mine, you could see best week, worst new card, you know? So the question is Makkari is a 3/4? Is she good now? Probably not. But
No.
there's a point. There's a tipping point where free power to the board is really good. You know, is it a 3/5? Like, where's the tipping point? 3/4 is better than 3/3, even though it doesn't work in Cerebro. So we're gonna have to see. Maybe Surfer. The more I think about it, I think High Evo could be maybe her best home. I'm not sure how Evo wants her, but you get power on the board and you're happy, even if it messes up like your turn 3 or later turn because you have one less card in your hand, because you're
True.
happy to float energy in High Evo. So that maybe, or just like a lockdown. I think Storm probably likes Makkari, you know, lock down a lane, just stack it early, get priority. So we'll see. Definitely wait a couple days, you know.
Yeah.
And yeah, and
For
not
sure.
super exciting. A lot of people are just like, could this be Series 4, please, or something?
Yeah.
So
I think this one's right up, right. I shouldn't say up, right down with Martyr in the
yes,
in the excitement level.
I think 90%. I do polls on my YouTube before a new card, like the day before. I post like, how are you going to open Makkari? How are you going to open this new card, if at all? You're going to use caches, keys, or you're not going to open. And I posted Makkari this morning. It was all right. 91% people said they're not trying to open for
trying it.
Makkari. And some people
Yeah.
are like, I'm going for Gladiator X23. Hope I don't get Makkari. I'm like, oh man,
Oh,
you're right.
man.
She's down there with Martyr in community excitement. Yeah.
These she's a speedster in essence, kind of like Quicksilver and stuff. And I get
Yeah.
it. They're trying to make that whole thing like Quicksilver runs out, you know, in your first turn and everything like that. But I don't know. I think they have to think of a better speed mechanic
Yeah. We'll
than what they
see.
have, or just make her stats better. But yeah, I would agree. I think she's going to be a like you said, like DOCTY mentioned, you know, wait a little bit if you're gonna think about it. Watch the content creators playing their decks tomorrow, see what they're doing
Yeah.
with it and how she performs and stuff, and just wait on it. So, all right, our next week we've got Phastos, however you want to pronounce him. Give each card in your deck a -1 cost or +2 power. I do not see how this could be bad. Both of those things are very good. You can bring stuff out a little early. He has a like stat line's not great, but something's going to be less and something's going to be +2. So whether this is a knock out of the park card, probably not. Because if you get a -1, I don't know. If you get a -1 cost on something that you didn't necessarily need to play early, whatever. But I don't know. I think this is going to be decent card. I'm not going to say it's better than Thena because I don't believe that's the case. She's probably the best card of the month, just right out. I don't think he's going to be better than her, but he could be better than Gilgamesh, I think. So, what are your thoughts on? Give everybody a little early preview. Obviously, I don't want you to spoil the next week's video, but you know.
Yeah, I'll save the
Save it
details for the
yeah,
video. But no,
yeah.
I think I in my preseason ratings, I had Phastos middle of the pack. I had
Yeah.
him actually below Gilgamesh, which is now probably a mistake, seeing how bad Gilgamesh is,
Yeah.
and they got buffed already. But I had him middle of the pack. I had him under Cersei and Athena, and I think a lot of people are really hyped on him. I first was really hyped on him, but I go back to looking at a card's floor. If you draw Phastos on turn 6, you drew 3/3 like that.
Oh yeah,
That's it.
it's worthless.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I do think you'll see play. I don't think he's gonna flop. I don't think he's gonna be like a see no play like Super Giant or War Machine where people are like hyped and then it just like flops.
Yeah.
I don't think it's to that level, but I think he actually could be strong in a Surfer deck because you know he does have this RNG here with the -1 cost or +2 power. That matters so much in most decks. Like most decks, you don't care about the +2 power.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you have to draw the card and play it. So let's say you played Phastos on turn 3 or turn 4, and you played 2 of the cards you drew, right? If you play them on turn 3, you drew 3 buffed cards, and maybe you play 2 of them, right? If you don't play it, you don't get the bonus. But let's say they had the +2 power, where then Phastos was basically a 3/7. Okay, a 3/7 with no ability. If they got the +2 and you played them, it's spread out. That's kind of helpful. But if most cards don't care about the +2, and you would kind of seem like a 3/7, and that's not very good. But the -1 cost is usually better. On 1 cost cards, if you hit like a 1 cost, you don't care if it's 0 cost. It is nice. There's no minimum, but you're probably cheaper cards. You probably want the plus power, maybe. But with more expensive stuff, if you hit like a Sarah or a Red Hulk or Doctor Doom, like -1 cost is going to feel really good, So that's normally the better outcome. So it's going to suck to get +1/2 when that's not the case, the +1/2 power. But in a Surfer deck, you're happy to get -1. I mean, that deck runs Sarah. That deck likes game -1 cost. If you can hit Sarah, great. If you can't hit Sarah, it's fine. But you could hit +2 power on Brood. So Brood, you're happy to get the minus cost or power. Sebastian Shaw, you're happy to get minus cost or plus power.
Oh, sure, for sure.
Now Absorbing Man has another target, because Absorbing Man can normally hit Brood. You can do Brood turn 3 into Absorbing Man, or you can do Phastos into Absorbing Man. You can do Absorbing Man on Surfer still. So he fits right into a Surfer deck, I think. And they run Magic. Magic means you get 1 extra turn, you draw another card. That's another use of the buff. So I do think he will see play in Surfer. I do think he's genuinely going to be a good card there. I think his floor is worse than people think. If you draw him late, you try not to play him. He kind of sucks, It just doesn't do anything. You may see some kind of power-up deck come around, a Koye into Phastos, with America Chavez in there. Maybe you do a non-Surfer deck that runs like Sebastian Shaw. We'll see. I mean, new archetypes, it takes one more final piece to, it took a Baron Zemo to make a mill deck work.
That's true.
So we'll see how that happens. The biggest problem, and it's going to seem a little bit of a problem during the first week, when Arishem comes out, Darkhawk is everywhere.
Oh, God,
if you're playing Arishem, Darkhawk, even without playing Rocks, even without playing Korg or Rockside, a Darkhawk's going to be like 30 power if you're against an Arishem deck. Even if they're running Blob, okay? Now, the problem is Darkhawk decks do run Korg. They do run Rockslide. They sometimes run Black Widow. If you're playing Phastos and you're not drawing a card, even if you got Phastos on turn 3, if your opponent played Black Widow on turn 3, because they cost the same now, and you can't draw on turn 4, your Phastos just got worse. Yep. If on turn 5 you drew a -1 cost Rock, your Phastos sucks.
Yeah.
So the problem is he gets a little countered by Darkhawk, but then Arishem gets really countered by Darkhawk, and Phastos is going to be in the same meta because he comes out the time. So it's bad timing for him. I think, are they going to just change Darkhawk in a week in their next OTA or the Rocks? I don't know. But if they don't, even if Phastos is a decent or strong card, I think it's a bad time for him to come out, because you're just drawing up 1/2 Rocks or a 0/0 Rock, and you're feeling bad. Darkhawk decks are going to really put a whooping on Phastos. I think that's a problem.
Yeah, I'm wondering if I wondered why Arishem was left until the last week of the season, but from what you said right there, that could be why. Because for all the people that are going to try the card, and I'm happy if the card's coming out, because it does look like it's going to be a fun card to play.
It's an interesting card, yeah.
It is, and I was saying earlier, and you know what? Actually, I think he's up next, so we'll move right on to that. Good segue, right? But he's interesting because we were talking about a draft mode. Well, this is technically kind of a draft mode. You're drafting a whole ton of cards into your hand, but like you said, the people who maybe don't get him, or the people that just are, they're
trying to win.
They're trying to win, right? Are going to play Darkhawk decks. There's no doubt. And the fact that you now have all these cards in your hand, yes, you're going to have your own deck in there too, but you're looking to try to get these cards out to play. If someone is playing Darkhawk and throwing Rocks in your hand on top of it, it's going to make it tough. So I'm excited for this just because it gives us the new game mode. It's a 7/7. It's the first of its kind, right? We don't have any other than Death, anything over 6, right? Other than Death. So But yeah, I mean, you kind of probably just nailed it there as to, I think most people that are getting cards this month or saving for cards this month are going to probably save for him.
Yes,
Just
100%.
yeah, just because of how he plays. But then again, like you said, Dark Hawk's going to run wild in this last week of the season.
Yeah, and definitely people. I mean, anytime I post, like I said, I do the card predictions, or I tell people, I ask what card they're getting. They'll comment, be like, "Oh, I'm not getting Makkari. Like, I'm skipping this week. I'm saving for Phastos, Arishem."
Yep.
Basically, everyone who I've seen comment, everyone's saving for Arishem. Everyone's getting this card, as they should be, regardless of how competitive he is. And I do think he's actually going to be fairly competitive. He's going to be really fun, right? Regardless. So
Sure.
He's worth saving for. Everybody's chasing him. A good amount of people are chasing Phastos too. With Arishem, so I think he's going to be decent. He's by no means a bad card. To me, I think of him like maybe what Loki should have been. He seems like a more tamed down Loki. Arishem gives you +1 max energy. So every turn you have +1. That's it. Loki's giving you -1 on cards he copies. But if you play 2 cards the same turn that were -1 cost, it's like the same as you having +2 energy, right? It gets out of hand. You could store the energy across turns in a sense. You could wait a turn to play all your -1 cost cards. So Loki is kind of like Arishem on steroids. And then Arishem's actually doing random cards. Half of your deck is random. Loki did those cards to your hand. It switched out your hand. You'd have to, draw them slowly. And also they weren't random. They were cards in your opponent's deck, and presumably your opponent's playing good stuff to beat you. So I think Loki is like Arishem on steroids. Arishem is what he should have been. He's, Loki at home kind of thing is what I like to call him. But Loki is a fun card. Like when people weren't mad about Loki being busted, like he's a fun card. There are a lot of people that they main Loki, even if they're not super good players, but there are a lot of really good players that play Loki because he is good.
Yeah.
But it's fun. It's a fun card when it's not busted. So I think Arishem has that. I don't think it's busted. Obviously, it gets countered by Darkhawk. I think outside of that, he's actually pretty good. He's actually not weak. People think he's just going to be a meme, but a fun meme. I think he's going to be decent. Is he strong or is he just decent is the question.
Right.
I saw synergy today on Reddit. You play Wave with Arishem. And that's absolutely disgusting. Have you did you used to play a lot of Wave back in the day when she played everything for?
I was a big Galactus player, so she was in every single deck that I had. Yeah.
But do you remember if you'd get the location that plays your card for you when it pops up?
Yes.
And it plays Wave on turn 3 or on turn 2. It plays Wave on turn 2.
Yeah, and you can't do anything. Right?
On turn 3.
Is that what I'm thinking? Turn 3, sorry. Yeah.
Yeah. Because you play her on turn 2, and then on turn 3, you can't do anything. Because Wave used to set the cost of everything to 4.
Right.
Well, with Arishem, if he plays Wave on turn 2, on turn 3, you can still play your big stuff. You can play a Dr. Doom.
That's true.
You have 4 energy. You started the game with +1. And so I'm like, man, old Wave would have been crazy because old Wave would increase the cost of everything. Your opponent would have been locked out of the game on turn 3. And you're playing a Dr. Doom. They can't play anything. And so, yeah, he's got some synergies. Obviously, he can do Quinjet stuff. Maybe Adam Warlock. You get out Adam Warlock turn 4. You're actually drawing cards. Like the +1 energy from the start of the game is the fastest ramp you can possibly do in Snap. That is serious. That's why it's such a big downside with the random cards. But +1 max energy is no joke. You are just going to out-tempo people. You're just going to slap down big stuff. Most of the cards he gives you that random are going to be 2 or 3 cost cards just based on the number of cards in each pool. You're going to get mostly 2 and 3 cost cards. So you just stuff your deck with big stuff mostly, and you're going to start, you ramp up faster than an Electro deck, and so you're going to beat people in tempo. If they're playing Darkhawk, you lose to them probably almost every time, but if they're not playing Darkhawk, you might tempo them out of the game. So I'm really interested in him. I think he's obviously really fun, but I think he's going to be fairly competitive and good in Conquest potentially.
Oh yeah, Conquest. I would agree. I think for the people who, and I said this from the beginning when I saw the card, content creators, I think, are going to love this card because you could you could take like one stream and be like, hey, I'm playing nothing but Arishem tonight, man. We're just going to try to get we're trying to get an infinity ticket with Arishem or whatever the case might be. But yeah, I mean, you make good points. They talked about the Cersei thing with him too now, where if Cersei hits a 6, it's automatically going to be Arishem.
You know what they're going to turn into? Something not dangerous either. It's just going to be a 7 power stat stick. That's it. It won't kill your board or anything.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know, man. I think it's like I said, I agree with you. I think it's just going to be a fun card. And I'm looking forward to it. It does kind of, in that respect, when you think about it, it's only going to be, it'll be around for that 1 week. And then obviously we're going into Deadpool, which a lot of people are looking forward to that season for more reasons than one. But we'll see if he sticks around. I kind of hope he does, but we'll see. So, all right, just looking ahead a little bit. Obviously, we do have Deadpool coming up in July. Do you have a favorite card from this series that you've seen yet that you are really looking forward to the most?
I haven't looked into them in too much detail. Copycat probably gets changed, although we're getting really close to the season and she hasn't been changed yet. They changed Hydra Bob. He looked OP before. Yeah. So usually cards like a month or 2 out. Like I just reviewed the August cards. I did a video like early data mine. Like some of those cards just look like busted. Usually like a month or 2 out, they just look like nuts, crazy. And then once you get like 2 weeks out,
Marvel Boy looked so busted with the
Marvel Boy. He's still he currently looks like that, but then once you get like 2-3 weeks out, cards look pretty much what they're going to end up as. Their stats might change a little bit. Sometimes you see the cost change, but really you have a good idea. So now we're getting close to the July season.
Yeah. And
Copycat still looks really good. They changed Hydra Bob to be OP to now maybe weak. But yeah, it's interesting. None of the cards look nuts. Even Gwenpool originally looked busted. Now she's like a 4/6. So I think Copycat, if the cards come out as is, I think most cards are decent. Hydra Bob might actually be bad now. Ajax is too maybe niche. But Copycat actually is probably overpowered.
Yeah.
She's busted.
Yeah, I think so too. Yeah, she seems to be the most powerful one. The Hydra Bob thing's interesting now because it's really, I think, if I'm not mistaken, it's the first card that interacts with Snap.
Very interesting. Right? Yeah, and so it's cool. It's maybe kind of healthy for the game that they've got this new design space.
Yeah.
But it's really it's crazy. Your opponent can choose to move your card.
That's right? That's crazy. Yeah, you're right.
But it is after each turn. So if your opponent snaps that turn, he's going to move at the end. So you'll know when you have to think about should I retreat or not. You'll know that he's going to move. It's really cool. Whether he's good or not. And he's a flat 1/4 actually. It's not bad. So yeah, very interesting mechanic. Just snapping out.
Yeah, I agree. Everybody will. I'm sure. I think that Snap will benefit from anytime there's a big Marvel movie coming out, and really Deadpool's the first one and the only one that's coming out this year. That's a big time for their game because they could really get people coming in now that they're getting interested in Marvel again. They're going to see the film and stuff like that. So I think that they may get an influx of new players during that
definitely.
Time. Yeah, which is great for them. So, and then of course we talked about this one. This is in the Deadpool's diner. So
a variant of hers.
A variant of hers is what you get at the end. But
you get her along the way too.
She's in the track as well. Yeah.
Okay, right.
But her, you don't have to go very far to get. I know some people are saying, "Oh, they better not make it like you have to have like a gazillion bubs to just get the base card."
Yeah, it's just the variant at the top. But you get her.
Yeah. The variant is with her. I think sitting in a chair. I think I saw with her legs crossed and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a look ahead here. I want to go back to this too. And I wanted to ask you, like, this is obviously the September season. No stats on these cards yet, but I know a lot of people are excited about this, and me included, because a lot of folks kind of thought we would never see cards of these, specifically Symbiote Spider-Man, the hooded Spider-Man, because they were all just iterations of Peter Parker. Now, the hooded one is a clone. So he was Ben Reilly technically. So he wasn't Peter Parker, but the Symbiote Spider-Man was Peter. So it looks like they're making cards now where you kind of thought at one point. In fact, the symbiote Spider-Man, the black suit Spider-Man, we have a variant of already. The Spider-Man
Yeah.
variant is the
Right.
McFarlane cover.
Yeah.
So this supposedly is Madam Web. They kind of missed the boat on it. Specifically, the movie came out already a couple months ago.
Yeah, they didn't miss
But
the boat on that. I
no,
saw the
they
movie.
did
They
that.
didn't.
I did too. It was not good. But yeah, so we're getting a Madam Web season, I guess, and we're gonna get this stuff. But yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you have any feelings on what this might? I'm guessing maybe a move type season, considering Spider-Man is.
Yeah, I mean they have Spider-Man and Ghost Spider both move stuff,
Yep.
and so we have to assume they're gonna do something similar, move stuff. Maybe they can move other cards like Polaris. Maybe they, I mean, you could do some kind of Hulkbuster thing with
Yeah.
symbiote stuff, maybe, so we'll have to see, or cards move into their location. I think it's going to be move based. I think that's the
Yeah.
best guess. Maybe you could, I guess we already have Quake. She like moves locations,
Yeah.
but I'm trying to think of creative stuff and they did just change Professor X to allow moves. So maybe they had
Yeah.
that in mind too. Who
Maybe.
knows? So
Could
yeah, my
possibly
guess
be.
is move stuff. We'll see what Madam Web does. Maybe she like powers up when cards move, or if your opponent's moving cards, she can see it happen or ahead of time or something. We'll see.
Kind of, yeah. Oh, yeah. That would fit the character. Yeah. And then of course we have in August, Young Avengers. You mentioned that a little bit. Kate Bishop, I know everybody's excited for with the arrows and stuff that you're going to see come into play and everything like that. So that looks like it's going to be fun also. And then of course October we didn't see yet. I'm excited for October because that's when Man Thing came out last year, and I was hopping on desks. It was like, he's one of my favorite Marvel characters ever. And when I saw that, now I'm sure they'll have something monster related coming October. So yeah, some good stuff coming out.
They had Werewolf by Night too, right? Because like
they
Halloween.
Did. And then, what's her name? Elsa. Elsa was from that Werewolf by Night special that they had on, and she's always been
Samila
involved.
do more.
Yeah,
October will be a monster month. We'll see.
Yeah, I'm excited. Well, listen, Marvel monsters go way back. Like they had Werewolf by Night, the comic. My gosh, it was out before I was born. It had to be, or very close to like the 70s, the very early 70s. But they had iterations each one. Obviously, we have Dracula. They had a werewolf. The Werewolf by Night was, of course, werewolf. They had a Living Mummy Marvel comic, and they had a Frankenstein, Monster of Frankenstein, I think it was called out in the comics in Marvel. So they can technically do all that, I guess, if they wanted to. So, but yeah, man. Listen, before we get out of here, so what's your idea of the future of Snap? I mean, are you seeing, because there's so much negativity, especially on Twitter. Good Lord, that Twitter is like a but I mean, where do you see this game? Where do you think the biggest fear that people have? I think, me myself too. I concern myself with it too because I'm doing this kind of thing, and so are you. That these mobile games sometimes just don't last. We go back to the very beginning of the show when you were talking about some of the other mobile games you were playing and stuff like that. Some last and some not so much. So where do you see the future of Snap? Do you think it has a good future and a good foundation built? And do you think it'll last a little bit longer than your maybe some of your average mobile games? Or do you think they kind of need to, do something a little more to keep it going?
Yeah, it's really hard to know because like when I look at Hearthstone, which I've talked about how it's fairly different from Snap, but under Ben Brode, so there's similarities in knowing how that was run that the second team's going to be aware of. That Hearthstone is still going on. It's nowhere near its heyday. Its heyday was probably like, I don't know, 6-7 years ago, but it's still going on. The player base has shrunk a bit, but like that's good longevity for an online game to be still going like that. Some mobile games like Clash of Clans, Clash Royale, I think are still going okay, but they're past their heyday. Heydays happen, but then there are some games that just kind of end completely, right? Like they shut down, and that's the biggest worry is that like it shuts down, you can't play it again, you lose all your cards, and so I don't know if there's really a way to know. I think what it depends on is second dinner, because when you look at a game like Legends of Runeterra, who announced they're shutting down their PvP, it comes to a point where a company has to decide, do they shut a game down? Do they shut down portions of it, go in a different direction? Do they just keep it like Hearthstone, where they keep it going? They still have new expansions come out. They still got new stuff. It's just a smaller player base, so they know it makes less income. Like, what do they do? do they keep it going even if it seems on the decline, or do they end it? Now the problem is Hearthstone is under Blizzard. Blizzard has multiple
Plus,
games. They can
so many
shift
other games. Yeah.
resources. They shut down ones that aren't, they shut down like Heroes of the Storm or other ones that weren't as good, successful. And then they focus. Same thing with Runeterra that's under Riot Gaming, League of Legends. They've got the Teamfight Tactics. And so Second Dinner only has Snap. Like if Snap goes downhill right now, like let's say in a week, it turns out they're just hemorrhaging money. It's all going away. The game's at a loss. Like Second Dinner is at a loss as a
Oh,
whole,
absolutely. Yeah.
right? It's the only game. So if it goes downhill, then that means they're out of business. That everything probably gets shut down. Obviously, there's talks. Maybe they're working on a second game. Well, we know
Yeah.
they're working on a second game. We don't know what it is. Maybe
I've
it's the
heard
online
that. They're
Lorcana.
saying
Maybe it's
something. Yeah. The Disney
something
IP.
else. And so even if they do that, obviously you wouldn't want them taking resources away from Snap and go into Lorcana.
Right.
But if they build a second game, it makes Second Dinner as a whole more stable. Like it
True.
may be in their best interest to have more legs under the table,
True.
right? You don't want one leg to get taken off the table and now the table falls. Like you want to grow and have scale and have multiple, games of income if possible, if you're able to do that. So I don't think starting a new game just means you stop Snap, but it's going to depend on how they proceed, how they choose to devote resources if they do have multiple games. I don't see it ending anytime soon. I personally don't know, obviously, how much they're paying for their Marvel IP. It's millions and millions, however much it is.
Yeah.
We know their income, like revenue, is high, but we don't know what Secondary's profit looks like. You always see the thing of like, oh, look at their high revenue. We don't know how much they're making each year. Like we don't know how much their profit. They started with it was like I don't know if it was 200,000 or 400,000 upfront investment when Second Dinner began.
Yep.
Just from like investors. So they got people they're paying back there, right? Which are paying back with interest. Like there's expenses they have.
Oh, no doubt.
And so if they can keep the game going and keep bringing in some money, they will do that. They will always keep a team on it, even if they are dedicating people to a new game or to Lorcana. And so, it's up to them of what they do. They could really go either direction, like it's their only game. They could choose to ditch it and start a new one, which is kind of more like mobile game company-esque. You see these games that come and go real quick. But we know the longevity that Hearthstone has had, so they could choose to keep it going and try to grow Second Dinner. You talk about Riot, you talk about Blizzard, maybe people talk about Second Dinner. There's that dream. Do they focus on the game or do they focus on the company? So it could go anyway. I don't know what their finances look like. I don't know the size of their team currently, who's dedicated to what they're focused on. So I'm not going to pretend to know. Yeah. I got no idea. I have no idea. Currently we got Rivals coming out. Marvel Rivals is,
yep.
So that's a big one. A lot of Snap streamers are going to just because it's Marvel themed, and Overwatch was like a fun game. So people like that. I personally won't be playing that and streaming that just because I think I used to play Overwatch. I think of my days of shooters and stuff like that are pretty over. I'm more into casual games.
Yeah.
I've been playing a lot of like Balatro, but for online games, like Snap is the only one I play right now, really. So I don't see myself leaving Snap anytime soon. Maybe if some other cool digital card game came out, I'd like do both or something. But I don't know. I'm curious what the creator scene looks like once Rivals comes out, because people will jump ship. Whether it's just a couple or like a mass exodus, right? We'll see. But Cozy's going to be covering Rivals. Alex Kosha he put out a video. He's going to be working on some physical card game that's coming off a Kickstarter. I don't remember the name on it. There's some physical card game that Kosha's jumping into. He started a new YouTube channel for it.
Oh, okay. Nice. I didn't hear that.
Yeah. I watched his video. He just put out like one. Like
I know he said he was playing Lorcana. I know he was going to tournaments and stuff like that. He said for it a couple of times. So
yeah, there's something else. I can't remember the name. I guess it's probably easy to find. So we'll see what the scene looks like. But I don't think Snap, the game itself and its player base, changes much when Rivals come out. even if creators leave, it's not direct competition in terms of the game itself,
No,
right?
two different
Very
things.
different. So I think the real test will be, I think Snap keeps going strong. It has people complain about monetization. And there are fair complaints about the game. There are some complaints that I think are kind of over the top or unfair, but it is monetized, right?
Mhm.
It does have monetization elements, especially for people buying a lot of the cosmetics, which is what should be monetized the most is cosmetics. Uh, but we know they're making a lot of money. Hopefully, they're making a decent amount of profit. Hopefully, they're not just in the red every year from paying off their investors, paying off the Marvel IP and all that stuff. We don't know what their finances look like. But if they're in the green, I think they keep it going. I don't think there's a real threat to Snap until another, similar game comes along. Like, what game is going to steal players from Snap, right? At the end of the day, when your player base falls, your revenue will fall
Yeah.
a bit. Okay. Now, revenue can fall before that too. If you have like bad PR, people get tired of the game or you make bad decisions, like, sure. But the biggest thing is like competition too. And so Snap's newer than Hearthstone. Hearthstone's on the decline. Runeterra's on the decline. People can go play Magic that's been around forever. You play like Magic Arena. It's pretty expensive. You get a good amount of cards for your money, probably, but it's just something that's been around a long time.
Yep.
People usually jump to new things, right?
True.
And so
That's true.
a DC Dual Force, wasn't it? That did
No,
not
that
last long
was
at all.
it was terrible. It was so
And yeah,
badly made. Yeah.
that got shut down real quick, and that made Snap look good. Runeterra on the decline makes Snap able to kind of justify the monetization. Like, until there is a competitor that comes out with a game that it's not the same Hearthstone feel. I talked about how Hearthstone has a really nice feel with cards and everything. Snap's a different kind of feel, but it's polished. Like, it looks pretty. When you first start playing all the cards, you got all this artwork, you get variants, you got borders, you got splits, backgrounds, flare. Like, it's a pretty game. So you need a game that comes out with great base mechanics, which Snap has. It's even got the Snap feature we said we like,
Yep.
and looks good. It would need to be a real competitor, right? And so even if they make Lorcana, does that compete with their own game? That would be the only question, right? It'd be weird if they're making another digital card game, would be the weird thing. Like, or would they be their own competition? Would that be a sign that they're giving up on Snap? Is it too similar to have those games?
I wouldn't think so. The thought I had was when I saw that was a possibility, that could be great because they may be getting in with Disney at some point. Disney now has all the Marvel stuff.
Do like crossover.
So that would kind of make sense anyway. So Disney, if they're already paying Disney for the Marvel rights, then it would kind of make sense. Maybe Disney even approached them and said, "Hey, you did a really good job with this Snap thing. What do you think about maybe doing something for us?" And then if that's the case, if they're doing both licenses, they would, I imagine, probably give them a bit of a break on the IP cost, considering that it's from the same company. Plus, not only that, and I don't think, to answer your question, I don't think it's going to take away, because I think the Lorcana audience, I know there's a few snappers that do, like Prashan plays Lorcana, and there's a few others, but I don't think it'll take away, because to me, like, I looked at those cards, and while they're cool and all, I think that for me, I would probably have to have some younger children of that Disney age, the ones that watch the movies and that kind of stuff, that I think would be a little more interested in that than necessarily like a bit of an older age group. I mean, Disney for family, of course, but I think that it would be maybe two different kind of age groups they would maybe get for those games a little bit. Maybe some younger, maybe not necessarily different age groups altogether, but maybe some younger.
Right. Do you know the gameplay? Have you played? I've never played it. Is it more?
I watched Prashan play. It's very. It looks more like Hearthstone, aka Magic, than it does Snap.
Okay.
So I don't think it's definitely doesn't look like it's too. I mean, it goes through a thing. Your decks are bigger. It doesn't look like it's as fast as Snap.
Okay, it's more a traditional kind of card game.
Yeah. So I think in that respect, and what I think maybe come the competition would be if another one of these major licenses. Now you mentioned DC. they're the direct competitor for Marvel. Not even so
Yeah.
much lately because their movies have been awful. But if they come up with something, or let's say even now, I know Star Wars just came out with a new card
Oh,
game.
right.
Yeah, so if they
That's a
came
physical
out,
card game, right?
it
The
is.
Star Wars.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah. And some people say it's not even that great. I believe, though, that same company has the licensing to the game, so they probably couldn't. But if they came out with something and they're going to see this method, they're going to look obviously at Snap as a base. And if they start doing something like, oh, look at that. They have this thing going on that you can play in like a couple of minutes and you can be done with the game. I'm sure they're going to take stuff from this. So I think a direct competitor would be something like that, like one of those games. Now, I know some people are even saying the new Pokemon that's coming out might be something to watch because that's supposed to be better. I don't know. But that's when I think they need to be a little concerned, is when something like that, that's a license like that, comes out where it's going to be playing similar, not necessarily going to take an hour to play or a half hour to play, but playing similar to this. That's when I think they would need to worry about it.
Yeah, that's good points. I think for Lacana, you're right. It might track different audience. There are a lot of players like myself who didn't really come to Snap for the Marvel, but came for the gameplay. So if it is more Hearthstone focused or slower, that might be differentiated enough. But yeah, if they do have a competitor come up, like maybe it's the Star Wars or Pokemon or something,
right?
That's really where you see the future of Snap, right?
Yep.
That's where you see how's the scene change after that new game comes out. I think until then, Snap has a pretty clear road of continuing doing what it's doing. Sure, they want to change around some things, keep their player base. They don't want to have peaked already. You want to be on the uphill. The game's still relatively new, and I don't think it shuts down anytime soon. And there's no clear competitor right now.
Agreed, 100%. DOCTY, it has been wonderful talking to you, man. This has been a great discussion. Thank you so much for coming out. I really appreciate that. I know you're busy with your streaming and stuff like that. I'll have to have you on again. I wanted to ask you about the because you mentioned way early on in the show about how you're editing and stuff. I am bad at that. I'm really good. I might reach out to you at some point someday.
Feel free to reach out.
Yeah,
thumbnails. I love thumbnails. Thumbnails have been ever since I started making YouTube videos for Snap, and very early on, I'm like, man, I love making thumbnails. I've never been an artist or good at art, but on digital, you get so much time, you don't have to draw it with your hand. I love making thumbnails, so feel free to ask any questions about YouTube related stuff.
Yeah, absolutely. I'm so bad with that. I'm 54 and I'm kind of anti. My wife tells me all the time. She's like, just read how to do it. It's probably not that hard. It's just bugging me, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not. So yeah, for sure, I will definitely do that. Before we go, please again let everybody know where they can find you. And I know you're on YouTube, but obviously let them know where they can find you and when you stream.
Yeah, so YouTube and Twitter are my primary platforms. It's DOCTY_Snap on both platforms. And I stream usually Tuesdays and or Thursdays at, I guess it's usually 6:30 p.m. PST, which is 9:30 p.m. Eastern, because I'm on the West Coast. But I stream just once or twice a week. I give a heads up to everyone in the Discord beforehand, let them know if I'm streaming that day. And that's where you can find me. I really appreciate being on. It's been great. Awesome discussion. It's great to see Snap have more, podcasts and kind of just discussion channels and community members like yourself and Glazer. It really adds a lot, especially to the active community. And it's just great to talk to people about the game and stuff. So it's been a great time. I'm happy to be on anytime.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Would love to have you back at some point. So, all right, guys, that is going to do it for this episode of Snap Decisions. If you are watching this on YouTube, make sure you sub to the channel. Also, make sure you drop a like on the video as well. That helps out against that nasty little YouTube algorithm thingy that they got over there. If you're listening on audio, I love you guys. You know that I started in audio and will continue there. Thank you for doing that. Leave me a comment every now and then. You can do that. You can rate the podcast as well on Apple, and I know you can also do it on Spotify. I know I've had a couple people do that, so please do that also. Otherwise, I will have My normal audio pod will be coming out tomorrow, probably a little bit later in the mid-afternoon to late afternoon. And then I will have another guest with me tomorrow. That is my friend Scott, Elevate the Sky, who does my theme song that so many people have complimented me on. He will be here. He does not play Snap, so it'll be an interesting discussion, but we'll talk about his music and how he came up with that. And he and I are about the same age, so we talk all about superheroes and all that kind of stuff. So a non-Snap show tomorrow from me. So have a great night, guys, and please stay safe. Be kind to one another always, and hopefully I will see you all for the next episode of Snap Decisions. Take care, everybody. This is your Snap DJ signing off.